It feels good to be back here on Breakfast Central on a Thursday. Yes, it is. And we are alive. That's the most important thing. So we're saying it feels good to be alive. We're alive because with what we see these days and what we hear in the news, newspaper stories is enough for you to, worry. But don't fret. We've got the trio here ready to do justice to the show today. My name is Joe Hansen, by the way. And I'm Big Borough. We've got you covered. Like Joe Hansen said, this is the right place to start your day. Breakfast Central will bring you all the latest information, insightful conversations, fantastic analysis, and we also touch base with our correspondents across the nation to give you a holistic view of what's happening in our nation, Nigeria. I'm Bingabura, but I'm going to struggle a bit today because I'm not wearing my glasses. And is this Felicity? Is it Wiki? No. It's Choma Potter. No. Olive, is that okay? Oh, yeah, it's Olive from the voice. You can hear it. Oh, wow. From the voice.
You forgot your glasses.
Yeah, I forgot my glasses.
Why?
And I struggle. I left it in my breast pocket. Of
your former jacket?
The jacket I wore.
Oh, wow.
It's okay. We'll help you see things.
Well, the good thing is we are here to be your eyes on Breakfast Central. And even as we see and bring you the news, we're also going to be seeing the comments on social media. We'll go to YouTube where we'll take live feedback. So if we're talking about any story, please drop your thoughts on it. We'd like to read your thoughts on any of the stories that we're going to be discussing this morning. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I am Olive Emodi.
All right.
The show. Wake up conversation.
Yes, today is a very good one, and we're going to start off first with the fact that there is a new move by the House of Representatives as they look to ban public workers from private schools and hospitals. There's a bit of excitement with this story, but
there's no bit of excitement for me.
It's not going to see the light of day.
It's just giving eye service.
And a populist move by the person that moved this motion, because that person knows that it will not
that
see
person
the light
even maybe has their own kids abroad. Yeah, I'm not excited in any way, shape, or form. It's giving eye service. Because we all know that bill is not going to see the light of day. But I'm sure our viewers... But
let's tell them the bill first. Let's get to the crux. Let's tell them the bill. All right, so this bill, basically, is actually a bill that has passed its first reading. And it's passed its first reading. It's a bill seeking to prohibit public and civil servants, including their immediate families, from patronizing private schools and healthcare facilities in Nigeria. Now, this bill is sponsored by Honorable Amobi Godwin Oga, a lawmaker representing Isiokwato, Umuneochi Federal Constituency, Abia State.
Olive can help us.
Yes, Isiokwato. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that bad with Igbo. I'm very good with Igbo names, I know.
Impressive.
I try. Anyway, he was speaking at a press conference that you can see there on the screen after the bill was read for the first time on the floor. But let's just take a listen, and we will hear if Olive's thoughts are really true or it's going to happen. First reading.
When I'm at the process of doing all these things, if I'm as a member of National Assembly or chairman House Committee on Education on Health, and my children are part of going to those public schools, sir, I will make sure it's fixed. The problem we are facing today is because we believe that the government institutions we have to go and make money, then you now take it. Then how about those other people that we are serving?
Fantastic initiative, fantastic bill on paper.
How
do you get it away from paper?
A bit of a background to the man. He is currently serving his first term in the 10th House of Representatives as a member representing Isiokwato Umuneochi Federal Constituency under the platform of the Labour Party. Before he joined mainstream politics, Honorable Oga was executive director of 7 subsidiary companies under Polymama Group of companies and other companies outside the group. So just to get a background as to why he will be the person saying this, it's understandable, but he sounded like a new kid on the block.
He is a new kid on the block.
He is a new kid on the block.
That's why I
like you said, he sounded like that.
He's really sounding like
a bit naive too.
Yes, it's probably done with best of intentions, but they should shock us and that bill should see the light of the day.
Or
We
having
just know
passed
it's
the
an
first
actual joke.
reading,
No,
don't you think there's some hope?
There's no hope. They just do
It,
that.
it
to
always,
give
it
you the
always, it
impression
always
that they-
passes the first reading.
Yes,
At
then
the
when you
second
get the
reading, it
second
will just
reading,
stagnate a little and
don't
stay
worry,
there.
let's not deceive
And
ourselves.
possibly not move
Nah,
forward.
that bill.
But what are the implications for this?
So the implication, if of the bill, if passed, would mean, I don't know if the bill is going to be will be retrogressive. I don't know if that's the word. If it's to go back in time to say that those who already have their students or their wards in private schools abroad or private institutions should bring them back. Maybe going forward, it would mean that you're not allowed to register your children in public schools. And I think that would be fantastic. If all politicians, if this was something that would actually see the light of day, where we can say that all politicians will be mandated to attend public schools. You will see the quality of public education. It will be improved.
Even the hospitals will eventually work.
Exactly. We then extend that to hospitals so that our governors and our presidents will know that London is not an option and that going to India or whatever to get themselves checked is not an option.
I want to know the enforcement mechanisms for this that is part of the bill.
You will declare.
And then the punitive measures, if you don't abide by the bill, are you going to pay a fine? Will people go to jail? How do you deal with
That's a
these
very good
issues?
question.
Exactly. So
because what will be the fine? Maybe they tell you the fine is 500,000 naira or 60,000.
Yeah, of course, they'll pay.
Chicken feed for them.
I mean, some people will even pay it in lieu. They'll pay it ahead of time. Like for 10 years.
Just the way Yaya Bello paid the school fees in lieu of...
But he said it was
them joining
alleged
the school.
that he did not pay. And somebody from the school said they did not receive money, even though there was a proof and receipt.
The courts will decide.
Yeah, the court will decide. But that's the story. The question is, what do you make out of this? Do you think this will help our education system, the medical healthcare system as well? Because if you have politicians who use Nigeria's medical facilities, the hospitals here in Nigeria, it simply means that they will no longer need to travel and fly abroad for surgeries, for whatever it is. They will take care of themselves here in Nigeria. That's what.
But the irony is, there's a whole generation of Nigerian politicians, the elderly ones in their 60s, 70s, that were beneficiaries of Nigerian higher education, and the standard was great. It was fantastic.
Absolutely.
There was a time when people that studied in US, they used to look at them like, okay, maybe the Olodos that ran away and couldn't compete with the universities of Ibadan.
I agree.
University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and things like that. But look how far back we've gone. We've retrogressed a lot in terms of education and healthcare. People used to come from abroad for surgeries in UCH in Ibadan, and it's just sad that our healthcare system is in this very sorry state.
But kudos to Honorable Oga. I mean, regardless of how we do not believe in the possibility of this bill seeing the light of day, that he can even dare to put this forward. I know initially I had dragged him and said it's giving us support. The truth is, we look forward to the day when this will become something that we can confidently say, you know, Nigerian politicians, Nigerian leaders, lawmakers, they're all involved in the healthcare system, in the education sector. Their kids are schooling here, where we can see politicians bragging about, oh, my children graduated from Lagos State, this one, or this primary school,
and you'll be very proud.
Lagos State, and they'll be very proud of the quality of education that they receive.
The former governor of Kaduna State, he enrolled his child in Kaduna State Public School. I wonder if that boy is still there. we should send Umaru Kirawa to Kaduna
so
to do
Umaru Kirawa is our
journalism.
Yes, is our journalist. Umaru, okay, they said the child is no more there. Our producer just told us now. Wow.
You know, if I could put this bill, if I could come up with a metaphor for this Honorable Oga's bill, there's actually no light at the end of the tunnel for this bill. The light at the end of the tunnel for this bill is a lantern with a little kerosene left.
The light was supposed to be a band A light, but you cannot afford to pay for that.
That light is band E. It doesn't come on, hopefully. But
who knows? I mean, they should shock us, like Olive said.
Yes, they should shock us.
Yeah, and let these bills see the light of day. But will the president assent to it? That's another issue.
Another angle.
That's another angle.
I mean, I've asked this question before. If you could influence any bill being signed into law,
which one?
What bills would you try to? Let's imagine that all three of us were lawmakers, and he had the opportunity to push for certain bills. Maybe bills people wouldn't typically think about, or maybe bills that they brought up before but did not see the light of
No, I know the bill I would push for. What? I would push for that bill. All sitting senators and all in public offices must earn below. Everybody must earn the same. The wages must be the same minimum wage. Same minimum wage.
As a university professor.
Same minimum wage.
No, minimum wage is taking it too far.
Wait now. You know there will be additions. Okay, take for instance, if a senator is earning 70,000 naira, he's going to have his house allowance and so on and so forth. If you add everything together, he might get to about, let's say, 1.5. It's fine. End that and see if you jostle to go and sit there and be collecting what's it called? Sitting allowance. You won't sit there because time would fly. You think of maybe if I can send like 10 containers to China now, you'll be calculating inside the house, so you won't sit there.
You know, your question is a very difficult question because we're in a country with myriad of problems. They're just too enormous, and you're like, which one should be priority? Which one should go first? And
you will take one. You can't do everything.
Yes, I mean, I would go for holistic reform at the Nigerian police. I listened to Scott Iguma's comments yesterday, narrating his ordeal in the last few days, and it was absolutely heart-wrenching. The Nigerian police is not, as it's currently constituted, needs serious reforms. There's so many of its personnel that are bad eggs, that are not even fit for the duty they've been appointed for, and their motto should be protect and serve, not, you know, it's horrible.
I'll come back to answer the question I asked, but I want to further expand on what you said, especially because you particularly raised Scott Iguma. And Scott Iguma was arrested, kept in police custody for days. I think it was there up until recently when he was released by his lawyers. If you go on his page and you watch the harrowing account that he detailed.
I watched all of it.
I watched it from part one to... I had goosebumps, not the kind of good goosebumps. Bad one, I felt like puking, my tummy was up in knots. And I think that the Nigerian police has a lot of questions to answer. Because that shouldn't just be one video where it will be a rant session and everybody will just move on like something happened. The Nigerian police need to investigate, fish out those eggs. If they confirm, you know, that what he said is true, fish out the officers who harassed, intimidated, deprived him of food, deprived him of fundamental human rights. That is no way to treat a human being.
Telling him to sign a statement he didn't write. You know, things like that.
Putting handcuffs at his back until his hands bled, even after he begged him. Don't we watch foreign films? We watch foreign films now.
Yeah,
you see the way that they arrest. It's not the way that you are arresting here. Even in the films, there's a lot more dignity. There's something in the Constitution that is called the right to dignity of human person. You have stripped him of that right to dignity of human person.
I bet you, and I stand to be corrected, a lot of police officers don't know what you just said.
It almost seems like there's a culture of impunity.
That the person you're about to arrest has rights under the Nigerian Constitution, enshrined. It's there.
I mean, you don't even have to.
They don't understand.
Human courtesy, dignity to a fellow human being. You don't need to read the Constitution to know that you're going overboard. How do you tell someone to sign a statement he hasn't
and the person said to you,
and he hasn't read?
And it's almost like you feel that you're doing them a huge favor.
And why is P1? I mean, let's mention. I mean,
anyway,
we're also turning it out to P1.
I mean, there are petitions, and I believe the EFCC will rise above and shame the Nigerian police and do due diligence with this P1 case, because they're inundated with a number, over 100 petitions from Scott Iguma. And we spoke to the EFCC spokesperson the other day, and he did confirm.
He said they're working on it.
They're working on it.
We hope.
Yes, and the man in charge of that investigation at the Panti, the Commissioner of Police, and the higher echelon of the Nigerian police force, should the DSP or the DCP should be investigated thoroughly.
We can't.
Because he seems like a biased party, and it's not just investigated.
We can't keep quiet and pretend like this is not a matter that needs to be investigated. P1 definitely has a lot of questions to answer. If over 200 Nigerians have said that they bought property and they are asking,
can they be wrong?
Where is our property? Everybody cannot all be telling lies.
At the same time,
that is something that needs to be investigated.
Makes this complaint.
And then he decides to be the voice. that is championing this cause, and then they arrest him. And it's not just in the fact that he was arrested and detained, it's the manner in which he was treated. So there are a lot of people here, and the question now is, whenever we hear cases of the police misbehavior, police acting out of order, the question now is, how well will the police fare when it's investigating itself? Can the police honestly investigate itself? Can a party be a judge in its own cause? One of the principles of natural justice, they will talk about a party not being a judge in its own cause and a party not be condemned unheard. Scott Iguma was not given a proper fair hearing, especially in the way
they rushed. He didn't even
was handled.
know he was going to court. He had to call his lawyer. I mean, it was hush-hush, and it's just very terrible.
If you can
watch that video, go watch it. We also need to take a second look at the Cyberbullying Act, because it's being used as an excuse to, just arrest people, shut them up, and trample on their fundamental human rights.
There's something called defamation. If you feel that somebody is saying things against you that is not true, take them to court for defamation. The defense to defamation is truth. If they can prove that what they said about you is true, then there's no case for defamation.
And the question is,
we need the police to not be an instrument for
harassing him to give him the names of the petitioners. Why the police should go and meet the FCC and
you know what? Let's move on. It's a story we'd like to look into. Hopefully, we'll do our very, very detailed analysis and spend some time to.
Yes, and just to mention that we're also extending an invitation, to P1. Yeah. We did send an email to them. They haven't responded yet. P1, we want to hear your side of the story as well. So we're opening the conversation. We're going to also invite Scott Iguma back on the show this time around to talk about the case with P1. All right? We'll be moving on, but before then, I had asked you both a question, and I haven't answered yet, about what bills, if we're to move, you already know that the bills that I would move for would be bills that, one, would prioritize healthcare for women and children. And I'll say this because I think
you should say everyone.
No, I would say women and children.
What about
I know why I'm saying that. Because I would think that if I just had a child and I had to return to work 3 months after, I would feel better knowing that there's a daycare, for example, in my organization that looks after my child. So if my child needs to be breastfed, I can be working and I can come back. Benga is back now to work, Even though, yes, I would also push for them to have a longer time for paternity care, because I feel like 10 days is not enough for a man to be able to bond with his child. Also, the mother has just been through a very interesting ordeal. She needs the support from her partner. So there should be longer times for paternity care, for men to bond with their children, for them to show up and spend time with their families. And then every organization should be mandated to have maternity centers for their children. I would rather my child is in my office downstairs and I'm at the top floor, and if the child needs me, they can call me and say, Olive, please come down, your child needs you. I'll be able to give the best of myself to my organization.
I agree with you, 100%.
Thank you very much.
I'm just thinking how that will work.
No, there are organizations that have started to do that. In Nigeria, many organizations have started to do that.
Any ministry?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'll make public sector and even the private sector. It would be just a bill to say, if you're running a business in Nigeria, you must ensure that you have a maternity ward. We'll figure out the modalities of that as we proceed. But I think that is an important
Olive, just pass the first reading.
It will pass the first reading, but it will stop there. Let's move on.
Okay.
Anyway, our next story. I'm sure you are aware that Nigeria lost its former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, and tributes have been flying in, left, right, center. The first that we did see out of many saw politicians, you could say, very important personalities, dignitaries in the society. But there was something that stood out, and it had to do with what we know as human error. The first happened to be the Imo State governor. While trying to mention and share his tribute to the late president, a bit stumbled on his words, and Nigerians in any way, kind of like said, okay, it's human, let's let it go. Up until, like a favorite person I follow on social media says, until it happened again yesterday, and this time it was the Senate president who also fell into this level of blunder. I mean, after all, it's still human error, but let's show you the clip, and then I will talk about it.
And the whole country is very proud of what this administration has done in the way and manner President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was honored and was buried. And you can see, even from President Buhari's President Buhari was honored and buried. And Distinguished Senator Ningi, you also observed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be forgotten for what he did during the burial ceremonies of President Muhammadu Buhari. So, in the Senate, we are also determined to ensure that in our books, the record says that we also had this valedictory, despite all said and done.
Let's take a look at the Imo State governor as well, who also fell for the human error. Fell into the human error. Just take a look.
May the soul of the former president, President Bola, President Muhammadu Buhari, and the souls of all the faithful departed to the mercy of God rest in peace.
Give me G. Is human, but I think Governor Hope Uzodinma realized his gaffe immediately and corrected. At least there are many ballers in Nigeria, so you can't be sure. And there could be a President Bola of a street association, you know, president of the Residents Association. So it might not necessarily mean President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But the Senate President, wow. I'm not surprised because I don't think in the history of this democratic experience, this 26 years of uninterrupted democratic experience, we've had a very cozy and body-body relationship between the legislature and the executive. He's so used to showering in with accolades. Anytime he mentions President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's at the tip of his mouth. Can you remember? He was the one that led the chorus for Bola on your mandate at the hallowed chambers of the National Assembly. So I'm not surprised, but it was a mistake gone too far. He completed the full name.
You wanna offer our president? Why can't you be making such a mistake?
It's a dangerous blunder.
It's a mistake. It's a blunder.
Just let Nigerians know.
Sorry?
Just let Nigerians know that.
Yeah, it's a blunder. Our president is not dead. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is alive.
Yes.
It's former President Muhammadu Buhari. I think maybe that was a bit of a mouthful to say former ex-president Muhammadu Buhari. So sometimes
former is ex.
Former is okay.
Former late President Muhammadu Buhari. So it sometimes can be a bit of a mouthful, and because they are used to saying President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so when they say president, the next thing that immediately comes to their subconscious is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So I think we can cut him some slack.
I wonder how the
Nigerians are not cutting him any slack.
I wonder how Mr. President feels about this. There are these people trying to let me go
he knows
my
that,
time.
Well,
no, he knows.
He knows that it's a slip of tongue. They are his guys now.
And even the president who has made several gaffes in the past. So air is human. We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
I made a mistake here the other day when I was trying to calculate kilowatt hours. Yes. And the present governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebolo, His Excellency also made a mistake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're all human beings.
Okay.
Even you are making a mistake. You are wearing Crocs.
Wow! Shots fired. Shots fired. Let's support X.
Sorry for exposing you, my sister.
Duke of Akwa Ibom says Senator Akpabio, a sitting president of the Nigerian Senate and leader of National Assembly, keeps campaigning openly for Bola Ahmed Tinubu whenever he gets the mic. Now he has buried him finally. God's will, Akpabio is the worst of the worst Senate presidents ever in the history of Nigeria.
Well, we can't really say that.
He says this is actually what he wants for him, but bro wants to keep his job. Kidi for you says that most of these guys are on feet. Kakistocracy is what led them there. Second time, actually, they're missing Buhari for Tinubu. And the next tweet says, there's nothing bad here if he corrects himself. We're mortal bodies and we make mistakes.
Absolutely.
He has been used to that name frequently, and that's what his medulla registered off on. Nothing bad if he quickly corrected himself. Natasha Wahala also add up. So I was going to say that, yes, it's a mistake. You know, typically, something called muscle memory. If you were driving to somewhere, maybe it was on a Saturday, you're not coming to work, and you're driving to somewhere at the end of the street. Subconsciously, if you're not paying attention, you will do a U-turn coming to work because the muscle memory already is used to coming here. It's just that lately, Akpabio has not been in the favor of Nigerians. He's been called out, especially with this whole case of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. So, of course, you'd expect that people would drag that a little more. But it was a mistake. Let's
this current crop of politicians who wish they were politicians in the 90s, when there was, before the age of the internet. All you watch is NTA. No feedback. Information is one way.
Make a mistake, you can't cut it out.
One way. And then highest, you write to the, newspapers. They have this little box,
and they can
opinion, and then they can choose to put it or not. But it's nice to have this democratic freedom of expression. And Nigerians just end it.
That's good. That's what.
But let's use it responsibly.
Yeah. Anyway, who's borrowing? Somebody's borrowing again. Just yesterday, final story. President Tinubu is seeking $47 million in addition for the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway.
That's a lot of cash.
I'm sure we have the footage. Let's see if we can play it for you to see where the Senate, talking about the House of Reps, if I'm right, also quickly made mention of the latest edition. But let's take a look.
Honorable colleagues, we have an announcement from the presidency, and the title of the communication is Request for Amendment of the Draft 2025-2026 Federal Government External Borrowing. And the content of the letter reads as follows. I have the honor to respectfully convey for Your Excellency's kind consideration the need to effect certain amendments to the 2025-2026 Federal Government Borrowing Plan, earlier forwarded to the National Assembly, to ensure the borrowing plan is consistent with the specific terms of financing arrangements made or proposed to be made by the federal government. Specifically, you may wish to know that in connection with 1, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, the total loan size for the Section 1 of Phase 1 of the project is $747 million, as opposed to the 700 million US dollars stated in the draft borrowing plan. This is because as of the time of transmission of the plan to the National Assembly, the lead arranger for financing only had financing commitments of up to $700 million from lenders. The shortfall in the financing was covered ultimately by export credit agencies. This therefore necessitated the request to amend value of the financing for the project to ensure it aligns with the loan size agreed in the finance document for the project.
Wow. So this is let's bear in mind, this is an external borrowing. And if we want to run through what is actually happening now, we can break it down. When Obasanjo assumed office as president in 1999, Nigeria's debt profile, external, was 28 billion. I mean, good enough, Obasanjo was able to get the London and Paris, debt relief, which further brought it down to 2.11 billion naira. So when Obasanjo left office, he left office with 2.11 billion debt. Now, Yar'Adua and Jonathan came, and they added about 3.8 billion to that 2.11, which saw Nigeria's debt profile rise to roughly about 7 billion. And when Jonathan left office, it was just about that amount, about 7 billion. But the late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, came, and he was tagged as the highest borrower ever, at a rate of over 600%. And he borrowed over 21-point-something billion, in addition to that 7. So that saw Nigeria's debt profile, external, rise to about 28, almost 30, 31, and then it kept going. Even before he left office,
where are we now?
We're about 30-something. Now we're in 118. We've seen President Tinubu borrow more than
in 2 years.
President Buhari in 2 years.
Well, he has had a lot to do at the time that Okay, sorry.
How sustainable is this? I mean,
That's the question.
It's one of the issues we need to take a critical look at. But, I mean, look, this is a mega project. The Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, a lot of people have argued that he would open up that economic corridor. It's going to create jobs. It's going to... It's a mega project. And the total cost they're looking at is $747 million. So this $47 million that the president is seeking is a tiny drop in the ocean. And it's a legacy project. We wonder if he will be able to complete it, even if he gets a second term in 8 years. But our hope is that he does. There's also another angle of the current state of federal roads in different parts of the country that it's not to write home about. It's horrible.
And we're entering into the thick of the
rainy season. So they're wondering what are priorities.
All right.
Yes.
I mean, these are conversations that will need further probing, and we'll bring in experts to come and talk about the impact of this fresh borrowing request. Let's now share what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, APC battles coalition internal tensions ahead of 2027 election. Reactions trail National Assembly's denial of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's resumption. GenCo's discourse kick as states begin tariff cuts. We'd also look at 7 lawmakers, PDP lawmakers, cross carpet to APC. It's still open season in the political space, and we'll be looking at the newspapers this morning. Stay with us for all these and more. Our top stories this morning begin with a confrontation that's raising urgent questions about power, access and accountability within Nigeria's legislative space. And that will be the key of our conversation as we see how Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, representing Kogi Central, was denied entry into the National Assembly complex on Tuesday in a blockade allegedly enforced by security personnel in what she says was politically motivated intimidation.
The suspended Kogi lawmaker, whose suspension by the Senate is being contested in court, parked her vehicle outside the Assembly premises and walked through the main mobile gate in the company of activists including Aisha Yusufu, who led chants against what they described as political persecution. She accused the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, of personalizing the institution and weaponizing its processes against her. Join us to discuss this development is an activist who was present with the suspended lawmaker at the entrance of the National Assembly, where the entire drama transpired, is Mr. Peter Acker. Mr. Acker, warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Can you kindly walk us through the events of that day and tell us what transpired at the National Assembly gate and why Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan was denied entry?
Okay, let me begin by saying clearly that I'm not a spokesperson for Senator Natasha. In fact, I have never met the woman before this incident. But I'm a concerned Nigerian who is concerned about the weaponizing of our institutions and the brazen level of disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. So we went there on that day, we know, in solidarity with the senator, and as it was expected, the entire vicinity was completely, almost militarized. The level and the number of law enforcement agents that were, deployed from the entrance. But of course, she came down from her vehicle and then she moved from the first entrance, she moved onto the second, and just the entrance before you get into the complex was completely barricaded, of course, and then security officers were there with arms and, tear gas canisters and all of that. Then she made her press statement and she left. But let us not forget why she had to go in the first place. Nigerians are watching unfolding before our eyes. An institution that is supposed to make laws and protect these laws have become an institution that breaks the law. The suspension of Senator Natasha from the onset was a unilateral decision by the Senate President on the day that this incident happened. And that is my particular concern. When they said she refused to change her seat, she kept calling on Order 10 and 11, which are her orders of privileges as a senator, of which the Senate President should have given her audience. But he was on hot mic and he kept saying, put her on suspension, let the sergeant at arms lead her out. That was before it was sent to the committee. So Senator Akpabio had unilaterally decided to suspend the senator who was elected like himself, and then it was sent to a committee to only rubber stamp what the Senate President had decided. And then the court issues and all of that, which I'm sure we are going to get into. But of course, a court had given their directive that she should be recalled, and she went back to resume plenary, following in accordance with the decision of the court.
Mr. Aka, let's talk about the court's decision, Justice Binta Nyako. Part of what Senator Godswill Akpabio's team are saying, and members of the House, what they're saying is that it was not a mandatory ruling, that it was advisory. That yes, she did say that it was not within his purview to have given that suspension that was over time, and she made a lot of criticism about how the matter has been handled. But that she suggested that she be allowed to return to the Senate, and it wasn't a mandatory order.
Miss Olive, what we are talking and discussing today is academic exercise. Nigeria, we will have to decide whether we want to be a country of the rule of law or we want to be a country that is tyrannical and we govern outside the laws. If you read the certified true copy of that judgment, it begins with the heading, Judgment Order. And it starts by saying, it is hereby ordered as follows. So automatically, it is an order. And then if you go to section 318 of the Nigerian Constitution, it states clearly that decisions in relation to a court of competent jurisdiction include any determination of that court, which will include sentences, convictions, judgment orders, including even recommendations. And section 287, subsection 3 of the Nigerian Constitution says that the judgment of a federal high court, or any other court that is established by the Constitution is enforceable in every part of the country by every authority that is involved. So if you now go down to the nexus of the matter, on paragraph 10, the judge, Binta Nyako, her lordship, clearly stated that to suspend the senator for 6 months means suspending the person for 180 days, which is supposed to be the number of days the Constitution provides for them to sit. She says, I find this overreaching, that this is going to contravene section 63 of the 1999 Constitution, which gives them the days to sit, automatically declaring that that suspension was unconstitutional. Ms. Olive, a determination that has found that what you are doing is in contravention of the Constitution. Is there any other academic exercise, or has law become something that is rocket science? And then in paragraph 11, she said clearly that I believe that you should recall the senator. So automatically the suspension or whatever, and do not forget that Justice Binta Nyako is the second judge that this case was assigned to. It was initially assigned to His Lordship Justice Obiora Egwatu. He was petitioned by the same Senate leadership, and then it was now reassigned to Justice Binta Nyako after Justice Egwatu had gone through all of the proceedings. And today the Senate is deciding what part of the order to enforce, trying to claim that she is supposed to pay a 5 million fine, which is a fine that is to be paid to the court and not the Senate. You look at the mischief that is across board, and then you wonder what exactly or where is Nigeria headed. In a country of 109 lawmakers, there are only 4 women, and one of them is the one going through this persecution. So whether or not they are deciding to say it is an order, it is not a direct order, it is immaterial. What was given is a judgment order, and the court has ordered and the judge made the decision that this I find overreaching. It ends the procedure and decides that that suspension is unconstitutional. What else are we discussing?
All right. Let's also look at the fact that on that very day, she wasn't allowed entry into the assembly. And there were a lot of talks about too many security men outside positions to ensure that there's no chaos. You were there, you walked in with her, and you were rejected from going in. And we also saw a footage where you were talking to the policemen, the men in uniform. Can you share with us very quickly what the security, looked like, and why do you think there was so much police officers designated at the assembly on that day?
It is simple. Because of the weaponization of law enforcement agencies in Nigeria, Nigerian leadership does not prioritize the security of life and property of the people. If not, the number of police officers who were there in that place should be in Benue and Plateau State, protecting communities in Yelewata, in Bokos and Mangu. But when one senator is trying to resume plenary, what is the, what do I call it now, the threat of Senator Natasha to the presidency? Of course, even every lawmaker that is there has their own private personal securities that are inside the complex, but they still felt so insecure enough to bring in truckloads of law enforcement personnel. This was from the entrance, I mean outside the vicinity of the complex. So before you are turning from around that Eagle Square going into the complex, it was already packed with police vans. Not to talk about the ones that were now inside the complex. I was wondering what exactly was going on, but you will now ask yourself, it begs the question why Nigeria will continue to grapple with insecurity. Senator Natasha is not being suspended for criminality. Not because she stole a mace like a senator did in 2018, but somehow was voted in as vice president of the Senate in 2019. Not because she embezzled funds or has issues with the EFCC, because she disobeyed the standing order. And that is why that number of security was there to prevent one Senator Natasha. What is the breakdown of law and order that is more than a day that a senator led talks to take out a mace in the National Assembly? Let us be serious in this country. The National Assembly has no pressing issues. Look at the debt that is you were just talking about the borrowing of President Tinubu. They will rubber stamp it no matter what happens. Natasha is not a priority. She should be allowed to represent her people the same way the Senate president is representing his people.
Now, Peter, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has described the blockade as politically motivated and linked directly to the Senate president. You also raised some incidents that happened in the Senate in the past. We've seen suspension of Senator Dino Melai, Senator Ovio Mwagege. They went to court and the return wasn't this dramatic. Is this incident reflective of a gender gap in Nigeria's political power circles? Would a male senator have faced similar treatment?
Thank you very much. In the history of Nigerian Senate, none of them has been suspended for a period of up to 6 months. Not even those, the person who led, according to the police, the thugs who went to steal the mace, which is the symbol of authority. We are talking about gender equality. We are talking about 35% affirmative action. In a country, in a Senate of 109 senators, we have just 4 women. And it is very, the silence of the other 3 women are very loud and, audible enough for everybody to hear. So much to women supporting women. But the truth of the matter is that once we continue to keep quiet, this illegality and criminality will only continue. Remember that the same persons who were saying there could be breakdown of law and order, how did the suspension of Senator Natasha also relate to the illegal recall that started in Kogi State and the persons who were behind that recall? So when you see that there is a direct affront, and it is a wake-up call for everybody. There is no society that does not take proper care of its female population that will move forward. Women are critical parts of nation building. And when there is an affront of any one woman who is trying to discharge her duties, it should be an issue of concern. There is a sitting senator in that chamber who is a former governor who was convicted of money laundering and sentenced to a prison. My dear brothers and sisters, was he suspended from the Senate? Was his salaries and allowances also withheld? So the Senate standing orders does not know how to take care of criminals who are convicted amongst them. Only women who are trying to stand up for their rights and speak up for other women. I think it is a shame. It is a travesty. It's an anomaly. And Nigeria should not allow this to continue. The National Assembly should be the symbol of democracy. And if there is any goof or we continue to see this trend, we are moving towards a downward spiral, and it is not sustainable.
Very, very aptly put. But are there any institutional safeguards that should have been put in place to prevent this situation to have escalated? Is there anything that could have been done differently to ensure that we do not achieve, that we shouldn't have gotten to where we are regarding this case between Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Senator Akwa Ibom, and the Senate?
Miss Olive, it is unfortunate where Nigeria is currently. Every institution in Nigeria is under attack. Democracy is dying. Do not forget that Senator Natasha made allegations against the Senate president on sexual harassment, abuse of office, and malicious intent to deny her of her legislative privileges. Some persons were asking for evidence of abuse of office. The least that the Senate president could have done, being the number 3 citizen of the country, of which the onus is on you to be held to a higher ethical standard, recourse yourself, allow an independent investigation. If it absolves you of any wrongdoing, good. If it indicts you, then we know that there are codes of ethics. But as we are speaking, even the internal mechanism of addressing issues or complaints by lawmakers was not even given to Senator Natasha. Her allegations have been thrown out of, the committees, and she is now in court. And the so-called, issue of appealing, the Senate president went to make an appeal by himself, and they claimed that it was the National Assembly. Meanwhile, that appeal, it was the Senate president, and the 3 respondents were Senator Natasha, the clerk of the National Assembly, and the Senate. Using taxpayer money on a personal vendetta. If Senator Akpabio has an issue with Senator Natasha, they should be addressed on a personal basis. But weaponizing an entire institution against one woman who is supposed to be representing her people is something that nobody should just close an eye to. So if you talk about institutions, Senator Natasha had petitioned the IG of police. Petitions are all over institutions, but of course, when there is absolute state capture, what institution do you expect to come and speak up? It is we Nigerians who are the ones who will wake up and fix our lives and our institutions.
You also spoke earlier about 35% affirmative action and mentioning the fact that out of 109 lawmakers, we have just 4 that are female and 1 is facing this issue. What were your expectations, or what are your expectations of maybe the other women in the, in the Senate? Do you think that there's anything that they could have done differently from what they are doing now?
Morally and constitutionally, there are a lot that they could have done. Senator Ireti Hiba Kingibe, the senator representing the FCT, is the chairperson, Senate Committee on Women Affairs. And she's also a member of the Committee on Ethics, which threw out Senator Natasha's petition. But of course, her silence has been very audible. But when it comes to being the reality, because I'm also a realist as much as I want to protect due process and justice in Nigeria, there is nothing I expect from the others. The other senator is Senator Dr. Mrs. Buhari Banigo. She's the former deputy governor to Governor Wike in Rivers State. What would you want her to say? The second woman is Dr. Mrs. Toluronti Adebule. She's the former deputy governor to Governor Ambode of Lagos State. She's an APC stalwart. What do I expect from her? And then we had Senator Hiba Ireti Kingibe. And those are the 3 then left with Senator Natasha. So when you ask that, what should they have done? We will expect that women should stand, not because we are saying Natasha is right or wrong, but if someone has come out to make allegations, the least you can do is give her fair hearing. Let there be seen that justice was seen to be served. And now with all of the issues and the way the Senate president has gone ahead to handle this issue, can we now completely take out the allegation of abuse of office? Can we take out the allegation of malicious intent to deny her legislative privileges? Remember that Senator Natasha was moved from the Committee of Local Content unilaterally by the Senate President. He took her to Committee on Diaspora and NGO. 2 weeks ago or a week ago, he has removed her as chairman of that committee and made her without a committee. Are they not supposed to be procedures in owning or making up these decisions? Is the Senate President the constituted authority? The Senate President is elected like other senators. Why are we allowing this kind of, brazen misuse of power to continue and unchecked?
It's a borderline between what the law says, what the Senate President is doing, and of course what Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is also facing. But I'd like us to focus on Nigerians as a whole. You were there, also Aisha Yusufu was there as well, and many Nigerians kept watching to see how it would play out. My concern and my question to you is this. Many have tagged that move that took place a few hours ago, I'd say 24 hours or even more, as an obedient movement. Some have tagged it that way because seeing Aisha Yusufu and seeing others on X who were all screaming, oh, it's a movement, it's obedient, supporting. Did you get any support from the political party that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan belongs to, which is the PDP? Were there any members there that also joined, or were the PDP completely absent?
Mr. Joe, it was a completely apolitical meeting. I have never been a card-carrying member of any political party. I have never come out to identify myself as an obedient. But it is always the, talking points of persons who are sympathetic with the ruling party. Whenever you come out to stand for something that is right and true, they want to neutralize it, water it down, so they give it a partisan coloration. But I want to ask the question, what is wrong with obedience or any other member of any political party standing for justice and equity and fairness? So it is immaterial whether it was political parties or whatever. The important thing is to focus on the crux of the matter, which is an injustice against a woman and the weaponization of an institution. But when you talk about the composition of the persons who were there, I saw nobody who came as a political party members. When we were coming out of the gate, we saw lots of persons who are apparently from Kogi Central, because they kept singing and welcoming the senator in their language, which I do not understand. But you should understand that persons who are from Kogi Central want their representative to be back in office. They are also emotional about the issue, the same way that the people in Akwa Ibom Northwest will also be emotional and sympathetic if their own Senator Akpabio is suspended for this long period of time. So it was not about party. I don't know PDP executive. Even if I see them, I would not know. I don't know Labour Party. They have how many factions. PDP has how many factions. So I would not even know them if I see them. So I did not know if they were even in that place. It was Nigerians who are interested in justice and equity who were there. That is what I represent.
Now, Peter, my final question to you is, what message does this send to young Nigerians watching the halls of power with this drama playing out? And there have been alternative dispute mechanisms like back-channel communication between Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan and the Senate leadership to have prevented this from playing out.
I'm sure that they are going to whatever back channel or ADRs that they are supposed to do, but we should not do ADRs at the expense of upholding constitutionality. The message to Nigerians today is for us, especially young persons, is to know that we are the collateral for a bad and dysfunctional system. Bad governance does not exist in a vacuum. If something can happen or any injustice can happen to high-profile individuals, imagine if tomorrow they come for me, who nobody knows, somebody can carry, and tomorrow you hear of forced disappearance and all of that. It is a wake-up call for all of us to rise up and fix our institutions. Nigeria cannot be at the mercy of strong men. Democracy is characterized by strong institutions, independent institutions. The National Assembly must be able to show that it is independent of the executive, the judiciary is independent of the National Assembly. That is how Nigeria can forge ahead. If we continue in this direction we are going, at the end, everybody will become a victim, because these are persons who are supposed to concern themselves with making laws. Look at where we are. Look at what we are discussing. So in the end of it, I want to call on every Nigerian. It is for Natasha. We must wake up and fix our institution for our own self.
All right. I think my final question would be to ask, I know we hear that she's going to the appellate court to get an interpretation. I know that this matter is far from over, but give us a sense of Senator Natasha Akpoti's disposition. It's been a lot, it's been a journey for her. It feels like it's from one issue to another. How is her spirit? How would you say, she's taking all of this from what you've been able to observe close up?
Senator Natasha is probably one of the strongest women I have met in public office. In all of my movement for electoral reform, the first time I met her was when someone asked me to accompany them to a court in Abuja, and then we also got into her own hearing. And when I went there, incidentally, I did not even know that she could recognize me from the work I do on social media. When you speak with Senator Natasha, at every point she's talking about what she wants to do for her constituents and work that she's currently doing, even under suspension. And that is what you continue to see. So if you want to check or break her spirit, remember that Senator Natasha had political battles. She ran for governor in Kogi State. Remember the election that even brought her. It ended up at the tribunal. The allegations of the former governor overnight before elections taking bulldozers to barricade the road that led to her communities. It has been a fight for Senator Natasha. And it is my prayer that whatever she wants or decides moving forward, that the grace remains with her and the compassion and the love of the people remains in her heart, so that she does not get distracted or, overwhelmed by these issues and begins to lose focus. But from the last time we met, even when I met her at the National Assembly, because we left them there and all of that, she's in high spirit. She believes that this injustice, as she always says, will not be sustained. And in due course, and then again, she did not appeal the ruling. She is only appealing the part of the fine and the contempt of court. That is what she disagreed with, and not the ruling of her record. Because the 180 days will even end, by the way, by the first week of September, and the Senate is proceeding on recess. So the entire suspension is almost completely spent as we speak.
All right.
All right.
Great
Mr.
conversation.
Aka, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and all the best with the work that you do, raising awareness about political conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's been quite a conversation there. That's still unfolding because, of course, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan hasn't yet been able to return to the House because she was blocked, and we'll continue to follow it as we get new developments in that regard. We'll now go on a break as we share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central.
Strategic defections and security back-channel deals to mountain tensions between regional blocs within the APC 2027 may feel distant, but the political machinery is already roaring. With Tinubu navigating turbulent waters and the opposition forging coalitions, the landscape is shifting fast. Multiple defections into the APC are raising eyebrows. Everyone wants a piece of the ruling pie, but come 2027, how many candidates can the party realistically take out without combusting?
And then there's another puzzle. Buhari's mass base in the north feels unclaimed. Or did Alhaji Atiku Abubakar claim that? There's been, of course, whispers of resentment towards Tinubu's presidency. And is this lingering? Is the APC slowly losing grip on its northern muscle? Meanwhile, outside the APC, opposition coalitions are consolidating. New alliances, joint declarations, and subtle threats are, of course, brewing. Is the party's confident exterior just a mask? Well, joining us for this discussion is the chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Adamu Garba. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, so many questions to ask, but let's talk about the defections. We've seen a lot of major defections into the APC, but are there concerns about the risk of overloading the system with too many power centers, too few positions? Would you worry about the possibility of internal frictions?
Yeah, naturally, there are going to be some tension, because if you look at most of the states where we have defections, especially Delta State and Akwa Ibom State, they came into the APC, which is a very good welcome development, by the way, but there are also existing APC members in those states. So there is need for consolidation and conciliation, because they hitherto fought against each other in the previous campaign, and now they are coming together as a team. And you know, this tension and collusion due to campaign may likely give rise to some challenges in between them. So now that they are together, there must be need for proper consolidation so that the existing members within the APC doesn't feel alienated by the coming of the executive authority that are coming from the PDP into the APC. So all those things are required to be fixed, and that is why we keep advocating that let there be a strong leadership of the party so that it can be able to consolidate and unite the forces in the party as we get so much defection from the opposition party into our party. Otherwise, it may likely be, instead of a net plus, it may be net minus, and we don't want it to be a net negative. So it has to be a positive on our ledger.
You did talk about this mass defection into the APC, and at some point you also referred to them as sycophants. Do you agree with that statement that others have equally made, that in as much as people are moving to the APC, it seems like a way of just, you know, kind of like bowing to the president, and also doing all they can so they can look good before him? Can you also share with us why you would tag such move as a sycophancy, or sycophants who have decided to join the party?
No, I think you didn't get me right. I didn't say that the people moving from the, of course, opposition party into the APC are on the basis of sycophancy. You know, what I was saying when I mentioned the sycophant issue was that we are having a defection from our party to the new coalition of ADC, especially in northern part of Nigeria. But there are some people that are close to the president that are insisting that all is well, which I believe all is not well. And that is why it's important to sound this alarm, because we know who the president is. He's a leader. He cares for this country. He is one of the strongest pillars of Nigeria's democracy, in fact, African democracy. And he will have to do the right thing when he knows that things are wrong. And that is why we are sounding this alarm. It has nothing to do with people coming from the opposition party into our party. That is a plus to us, and we welcome it. But what we are saying is that the people inside the party, the people that these people from opposition coming to meet into our party, should not feel alienated by the influx of the new members coming from outside the party into the party. And that's basically where I make that point. But on the issue of sycophancy, I was saying things are not well. We are losing members by the day, especially in northern part of Nigeria, post-Buhari, and that it is very important that we strategize in how we can maintain our base in the north, so that we don't lose a great number of people that eventually could lead to our problem in 2027 election.
And Mr. Garba, that brings me to this point, but I'll ask my question after we go for this quick break. Do stay with us, we'll be right back. You're welcome back. We still have Mr. Adamu Garba, chieftain of the All Progressive Congress, with us this morning on Breakfast Central. Thank you for clearing the air on that. We just to follow up on some of the things you highlighted. You said all is not well, especially with the Northern Bloc. You belong to the Northern Bloc of the party, and the Northern power brokers seem to be calculating their moves ahead of 2027. Some claim the region feels left out under the Tinubu presidency. Is APC at risk of alienating its biggest voting bloc? What are exactly the grounds and the issues with the Northern Bloc of the APC? Why are people not happy? Why did you say all is not well in the APC, especially with regards to the North?
You know, the traditional belief in the North is that once somebody at the helm of affairs is not from the North, then there is this perception of alienation. So what you do if you are from the South is to consistently communicate and clear the path that there is no alienation. And based on the current order, there is actually no alienation. It's all based on perception. But communicating the flow and the inclusivity of the current government to the North is short. And that is why they are feeling alienated. Number one. Number two, you have the strongest pillar of Northern APC in late former President Muhammadu Buhari. May God rest his soul, who died recently.
And with his loss, he has a teeming supporters. And when you calculated, since the time he was involved in politics, he consistently bring about 12 million votes. In 2023 election, we lost this through 12 million votes. We only got 5.5 million votes. And that is not really good for us. And now that we have an opposition coalition that is predominantly, driven by some of the actors in the north, and also having some former ministers of Buhari's government moving with the opposition coalition of ADC, they don't have any serious political weight, they are paperweight, but then they have propaganda value. Because this same propaganda value was what propelled so many of the APC governors in the north under the banner of Buhari to become what they become. So if these guys are able to take opportunity on our own disconnect with the people in the north and rally a propaganda around themselves, they may inherit Buhari's following, and that could spell doom for us. So the best solution is for us to re-strategize and still maintain our base by making sure that the APC live in the north post-Buhari, not that in the absence of Buhari, we lose considerable amount of supporters. And if we lose support of the north, especially the core north, then there is going to be a very serious problem. And that is actually why I'm sounding the alarm that let the government do something about it. Let us not give them opportunity to prey, on our shortcomings by doing something wrong that will push so many of the members of the party to the opposition on the perception of alienation, because it's just perception, it's not a reality.
All right, I still want us to stay with the north. I mean, you're still talking about being able to gather the influence in the north that initially was, belonged to late former President Muhammadu Buhari. And I want to bring in Alhaji Atiku Abubakar into the conversation. There was at the time when he announced his exit from the PDP, it coincided with the time when the nation was mourning the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And there were those who speculated that was very timely because they felt like it was a political statement in a way to sort of consolidate the north. Do you think that His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has the influence to sort of take over that, that section of the north? And do you think that his announcing of his exit from the PDP during the time of the mourning was strategic enough to win that influence that formerly belonged to late former President Muhammadu Buhari?
Actually, he's making effort to do that. That is actually his target. And that's why I mentioned that they are trying to prey from our weaknesses. And the demise of late former President Muhammadu Buhari has opened a wide door for them to encroach on our traditional domain. And when you go back to the history of our 2023 election, they have actually made some inroad. Atiku Abubakar, then the candidate of PDP, made a very significant inroad. He took over Kaduna from APC because Kaduna was actually won by the PDP. He also won Katsina State. He won Sokoto State, right? That's in the northwest part of the country, and so many of the northeastern states. So it means that there is a gradual encroachment on our traditional domain. And history has started documenting that. As I told you, that prior to 2023 election, in just 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari was able to bring this 12 million vote backs. But in 2023, we lost to 5.5 million votes. And this is a significant loss. And the net gain went into the opposition under the leadership of then in PDP Atiku Abubakar. So it means that the more we lose, the more they gain. So what can we do to make sure that they don't gain from our loss? And what can we do to continue to maintain our traditional base? And that's why I say we need to recalibrate our strategy in approach to northern Nigeria, so that we can continue to maintain our base. Otherwise, we risk losing significant chunk to the opposition. And that is not good for us because APC as a party has its own significant voting population consistently coming from northern Nigeria. From its evolution into ANPP, down to CPC, ANPP, and then ACN, ABGA, and some part of PDP. When you look at all the combination, it was always consistently, the majority of the vote consistently come from the north. In fact, in the last election, the south only gave APC 3.7 million votes. Why did not get 5.5 million votes? Right? So when you look at all those kind of calculations, and we mistakenly lose significant chunk again to the opposition, it's not really looking good for us. And I don't want us to lose the election. I don't want to make new friends in a new place. I already have a lot of friends in the APC. We have already established a community. We want to continue to lead the country for the good services we've been delivering. If you look at what APC is doing in this country, I think this is the only moment where we are having a stable, consistent, and responsible leadership. When you look at on the security front, we have practically eliminated majority of the security threat in this country. Most of the bandits that ravages the Northwest are now eliminated, especially the bandit leaders. We used to have 75 bandit leaders. Now we have only 3 surviving. 72 were eliminated. You know the situation that we have in the Southeast, where we have the disturbances of Simon Ekpa, you know, Biafra government in exile, causing a lot of mayhem. Now all those things are eliminated. Again, when you come back to the Northeast, where you have Boko Haram, I can tell you authoritatively that I saw video, though classified, not published, because some of the security activities are not published, that Mandara Mountain, that's the bedrock of Boko Haram's operation, has been dislodged by our military. As I'm talking to you now, a lot of operations are being done to make sure we recapture Sambisa Forest. A whole mighty Sambisa Forest is now going to be captured by the APC. By the APC government under the leadership of President Buhari, and then under the guardianship of Maladu Ribadu in NSA. So a lot of effort have been done to fix our security issues. When you come to the economy, people think that the hardship we are facing today, you know, is not done by the government. The government knows. There is no way you remove subsidy that you will not face hardship. But this hardship is actually the necessary pathway to enduring and lasting prosperity. And if
Mr. Garba, you've said, I mean, it almost sounds like
when you centralize the resources. So what we are trying to do in the APC is to centralize the resources so that you can have equitable distribution for effective development.
I guess the voters will decide, and you've mentioned all those great things that the APC is doing, but at the end of the day, you need to convince the voters to get on board and to vote. Now, that brings us to the talks of strategy. What's the real objective behind the Tinubu-Kwankwaso engagement? We've seen recently images of meetings this week. Even the president, which comes amidst several rumors as we speak, is still a member of the NNPP. He hasn't said he's going to the APC. Is there something going on behind the scenes? And does it signify reconciliation, or is the APC absorbing a rival to neutralize threats? And how important will it be for Kwankwaso and his Kwankwasia movement to be on board with the APC? Do you see that happening anytime soon, or the possibility of it?
You see, I don't want to speculate on the media, but I want to believe that the president is the father of Nigerian democracy. So what he is trying to do is to consolidate all our democratic organs in the country. If you see so many, because of this his approach, the rapprochement, you have seen even sitting executive governors in some states within the opposition party, the PDP, are coming into the APC. So the president is also making inroads into another opposition party, NNPP in Kano, through their leader, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, His Excellency, to join the APC. I think it's one of the good things that we should expect. By the way, he has a very strong following in Kano State. The Kwankwasia movement is a formidable force, it's a formidable political force. And you know, in the last election, Kano gave about 1.5 million votes. He took 1 million, we took 500,000. So what is wrong if we get additionally the 1 million votes that is coming from him, you know, back into the APC? So I think all those kind of re-strategizing and reorganizing and also reproaching the opposition party is all part of the politicking, and I think much will be seen as we move forward. But to me, I think it's a good thing if our president is opening doors to welcome almost all members of the opposition into the party. It just shows that the APC is doing a very good job, and people are actually capitulating to the interests of the APC.
All right. If you say the APC is doing a very good job, what do you make of the name, Mr. Peter Gregory Obi? Because that name seems not to have left the lips of every single APC member. Is he a threat to the APC?
Of course. You see, they say a snake is a snake. Whether it's a baby snake or a mature snake. The good thing is that once it grows, it will still bite. So Peter Obi is a significant force. He's a threat. He has a massive following, almost like a cult online following, the obedient movement that is acknowledged globally, and that they are determined, right, and they are very organic. So why can't the obedient movement work for the APC? Why don't we have this kind of energy? So I think it's a threat, naturally, based on the way he's moving. And if you look at his inroad, he's even penetrating some part of northern Nigeria, some part of, especially in the north central. So he's actually a threat. And I don't believe in APC we can underestimate any opposition, right? So he might win if you underestimate him. So the best solution is to see how we can contain him as much as possible. And I think we are doing a very good job in containing the obedient movement, because they lack organization, they lack structure, and their core principle is anger, against the status quo. And that once you invest emotion, in a movement, you always lose. You always lose the way. So you must have to be tactical, you must have to be very strategic, and I think these are some of the weaknesses of the obedient movement. And on these weaknesses, we are containing them as much as we can.
So when you say you are containing the obedience movement, what do you mean? When you say you're containing the obedience movement?
When you say containment, right, it means that the same way they are exerting their own strategic imprints, towards defeating our party, we are also countering this strategy, as much as possible by making sure that we encroach into their domain and win. After all, we have, when you look at Peter Obi's traditional domains, where he had a very strong following, he got 4 million votes in the south. He was actually the winner in the southern Nigeria, and then he got 2 million votes in the north. So most of the areas where he had strong impact were now consolidated under the APC. In Delta State, for instance, you can see that. In Akwa Ibom, you can see that. In Lagos, it's all consolidated. The entire Southwest are now completely, comprehensively consolidated. In the Southeast, there is a lot of divisions and structures, and then we have APC governors in the South. It's 2 APC governors, and more are coming. So when you look at all those things, you will see a very clear strategic containment policy, whereby we will make sure that the force we receive from the obedient movement is not repeated in 2027. And
does this strategy containment policy include planting moles in other political parties to ensure that there's an implosion from within these political parties, because the house divided within itself cannot stand?
Yeah, you see, the thing is that there is no any getting into, like APC. I heard so many people are saying that you have people inside the opposition political parties are now implanted as moles to disrupt their internal proceedings so that they don't succeed. That's the thinking, but no, it's not the case. Political party system in Nigeria, especially the opposition, have hardly ever got themselves together. Just check the history. So what we are witnessing in the Labour Party is exactly what we are witnessing in the SDP. It's exactly what we are witnessing in the NNPP and so many other political parties. For instance, like, let me take, for example, NNPP. We spoke about the Concourse. NNPP has only one state, which is Kano. But then they sacked the leader in Kano, Concourse, and they are even questioning the membership of the Concoursia movement in the NNPP. So you now begin to wonder, why these kind of challenges? So are we saying that these things that have been happening even prior to the 2023 election is actually the result of what we are seeing? Now, if you go back to Abure's case, like in the Labour Party, it's almost the same case. He had several issues with Apapa Labour Party. So these things have been happening even prior to us getting the government, right? Winning the victory in 2023 election. So it is always a problem. There's always an issue with the opposition party. So it's just self-inflicted injuries that they are getting on themselves. And the fact that it's working to our advantage, we cannot go and help them fix the problem. And I guess that's what our president even said. We cannot go and help you fix your problem if you are immature enough to organize yourself as a formidable force to confront us. Then your loss is our gain, that is good for us. And that's the issue. The issue is purely internal. It's a self-inflicted injury. And it's to our benefit, so we welcome it.
Okay.
But we are not a party to that situation.
Now, earlier during our conversation, you did talk about the loss, the political capital after the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. There might be some gap there with Northern vote, and there are people that are willing to capitalize. He was revered and had a court-like fellowship in the North. But what we're seeing now, the political calculations with regards to the coalition, the ADC, quite a number of former President Muhammadu Buhari's ministers that work closely with him are part of this coalition. Do you feel threatened by the coalition, and do you feel they have the power to get what will be typically Buhari votes?
Frankly speaking, they are a formidable force and they are a threat. Politically, they are paperweight. Most of them have no strong political value at all. When you look at the list of those ministers that have moved into the ADC, there are people that served in Buhari's government for sometimes 8 years, but they hardly even assisted and supported the same.
So you think a former governor like Nasir El-Rufai doesn't have political capital?
No. Nasir El-Rufai was not a minister under Buhari's government. He was a governor, right? And that,
yes, a former governor, I beg your pardon.
He is definitely a political force, but will not inflict that strategic defeat that people are expecting that the ADC should that ADC should have against the APC, right? But then they are still a force. They are still a threat because they have propaganda advantage, and that same propaganda advantage is what, as I mentioned to you, many governors in the north were able to ride on this propaganda advantage to become governors under the mantra of Buhari. And now that he is no longer there to substantiate and filter who is with us and who is not with us, they may ride on this propaganda advantage, and it will give them a strategic win. To be very candid with you, if we don't do the right thing on time, we will risk losing the entire Buhari's cult following to the opposition ADC. And that is why people like us are sounding the alarm that we need to do something very urgently. Even if they don't have the political value as envisioned, some of them, they have propaganda advantage with them. And you know how propaganda works in politics. Once people have a perception that this is exactly what is happening, and they have internalized and decided to operationalize it, it will go against us. And that is why I said we have to do something very urgently to fix the challenges.
All right, I'd like you to hold on. I have a very important question I want to hear from you, but let's take this break. When we come back, I'll ask the question. Welcome back. As we wrap up this conversation, we still have APC chieftain and you could say former presidential aspirant who's here with us, Mr. Adamu Garba. Just final question. Can you confirm to us if the rumors that we do hear that you'll be having the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, who joined us here yesterday, will become the new chieftain of the chairman of the APC?
I think that will be confirmed by the National Executive Committee, but overwhelmingly, it's looking more likely that Professor Nantawe Goshe Ilwatda may likely emerge as the next APC chief.
Willing to capitalize. He was revered and had a court-like fellowship in the north. But what we're seeing now, the political calculations with regards to the coalition, the ADC, quite a number of former President Muhammadu Buhari's ministers that work closely with him are part of this coalition. Do you feel threatened by the coalition, and do you feel they have the power to get what will be typically Buhari votes?
Frankly speaking, they are a formidable force and they are a threat. Politically, they are paperweight. Most of them have no strong political value at all. When you look at the list of those ministers that have moved into the ADC, there are people that served in Buhari's government for sometimes 8 years, but they hardly even assisted and supported the same.
So you think a former governor like Nasir El-Rufai doesn't have political capital?
No. Nasir El-Rufai was not a minister under Buhari's government. He was a governor, right? And that,
yes, a former governor, I beg your pardon.
He is definitely a political force, but will not inflict that strategic defeat that people are expecting that the ADC should that ADC should have against the APC, right? But then they are still a force. They are still a threat because they have propaganda advantage, and that same propaganda advantage is what, as I mentioned to you, many governors in the north were able to ride on this propaganda advantage to become governors under the mantra of Buhari. And now that he is no longer there to substantiate and filter who is with us and who is not with us, they may ride on this propaganda advantage, and it will give them a strategic win. To be very candid with you, if we don't do the right thing on time, we will risk losing the entire Buhari's cult following to the opposition ADC. And that is why people like us are sounding the alarm that we need to do something very urgently. Even if they don't have the political value as envisioned, some of them, they have propaganda advantage with them. And you know how propaganda works in politics. Once people have a perception that this is exactly what is happening, and they have internalized and decided to operationalize it, it will go against us. And that is why I said we have to do something very urgently to fix the challenges.
All right, I'd like you to hold on. I have a very important question I want to hear from you, but let's take this break. When we come back, I'll ask the question. Welcome back. As we wrap up this conversation, we still have APC chieftain and you could say former presidential aspirant who's here with us, Mr. Adamu Garba. Just final question. Can you confirm to us if the rumors that we do hear that you'll be having the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, who joined us here yesterday, will become the new chieftain of the chairman of the APC?
I think that will be confirmed by the National Executive Committee, but overwhelmingly, it's looking more likely that Professor Nantawe Goshe Ilwatda may likely emerge as the next APC chairman in the upcoming.
Are you going to seek political office in 2027, and what office would you be gunning for?
I didn't get that.
Are you seeking political office in 2027? And if yes, what office would that be?
Frankly speaking, I believe that it is the turn of the South, so I am from the North. So let the South continue and finish. Let Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu finish his term, 2023, 2031. That's my position.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, having said that, we can conclude that you're only interested in the highest office in the land. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. All right. Let's move away from this interesting conversation. Let's look at another one. Recently, the Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission announced plans to revise electricity costs for Band A customers from 209 naira per kilowatt per hour to 160 kilowatt per hour, effective August 1, 2025. Now, several state governments have now announced plans to actually tow a similar path. However, this sparked sharp resistance from Gencos and Discos, raising tough questions about who truly controls power pricing in Nigeria and whether we're headed for a gridlock or a breakthrough.
Recall that the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission disclosed that 7 states now control the electricity markets in accordance with the Electricity Act 2023 and expected to complete their transitions between now and September. This has now resulted in the tariff reductions we are beginning to see. On one hand, tariff cuts could be a lifeline for households battling inflation and erratic supply. However, on the other hand, experts warn that the politically motivated pricing might wreck the already fragile power infrastructure. Is this a populist stunt or another strategic reform? Joining us for today's discussion is Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman and CEO, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Reactions have trailed the tariff cuts by states trying to cushion economic hardship, a move that the Discos and Gencos are particularly not thrilled about. Some have called it a political move. But these states, that is, of course, Enugu, Ondo, Ekiti, Imo, Oyo, Edo, and Kogi, and other states including Lagos, Ogun, Niger, and play to overstep their bounds by independently slashing electricity tariffs. Or is this a bold move towards decentralized regulation?
Well, typical of everything in Nigeria, a lot of noise, less signal or sense. Again, we always don't predict outcomes that seem to be, clear in the horizon. So when you allow states to create national electricity market, the clear implication is that you're going to have differences in tariff structure because tariffs are not enacted as law. Tariffs are outcomes of application of methodology to different and varying circumstances. So take, for example, Enugu State, okay? First, the NEC tariff was a result of formula and also policy, fiscal policy. The Band A paying more than Band B and C is not because it has to be so. NEC reflected the fact that the federal government devaluation policy and all that created, if you like, cost overall in terms of, inflated the cost of doing business, and NEC has to find a way. And NEC chose that maybe we can outsource more costs to those who we think can pay because they are theoretically going to have more power. So they say, okay, let's use by an APC. Now, that's what it is. Now, Enugu starts setting their tariff and says, look, we accept the wholesale tariff. And let's understand it. The wholesale tariff is the generation cost, which is fixed by contract between NEC, bulk trader, and the generator. So Enugu didn't alter that. It's a given. They took it and say, this is the wholesale price. But the distribution company that serves Enugu is a company that has its own cost structure. So DISCO give us their cost structure. The DISCO gives them an envelope, say it's 18 billion, let's say 18 billion. Enugu says, okay, typical of regulation, you do what we call prudence and relevance check to make sure those costs are efficiently procured. So what they do, they say, okay, break this cost down to us, just like New Central. Somebody says, give us your cost, your variable cost, you have a variable cost, you have a fixed cost. The cost of a New Central will be different from that of another station, depending on the context. So Enugu looks at that and say, well, fortunately for us, your real cost from what you have given us is not 18 billion, it's actually, let's say, 8 billion. Therefore, your tariff, which is what tariff? Tariff follows, there's no formulaic or standardized notion that a tariff must be X. Tariffs, to be cost efficient, must reflect the real cost plus interest or profit and return on investment. That's the broad formula. So if Enugu now says that the real cost you are giving us means that your what we call revenue requirement, how much you need to serve Enugu, is less than what you got when you were doing NEC, then Enugu will be right to say the real tariff should then be X. So the key question is, has Enugu done the work in allowing this prudent investor to recover all the cost plus allowable return on investment and other things? If they have done that and the price drops, then that's the right thing. Some states can see their own price go up because their cost is higher. I give you an example. States like northern Nigeria, where there is radial transmission, distribution, long expanse of land, low density in terms of concentration, would obviously perhaps have a costly distribution network, in which case the tariff might vary. So this is the point here. Typical of Nigeria, the Ministry of Power in handing over these things and NEC to an extent did not do the kind of work I expect them to do, which is to provide more guidance, better guidance, and even help these states lead them hand to hand. So the risk we're going to run is that populism, like you said in your intro, some states, they don't have the level of methodical sophistication Enugu had. And interestingly, the people who did work in Enugu are my staff who work with me largely, and I'm aware of the background work they are doing. So you don't expect all the states to do what Enugu has done. So they might end up creating a bandwagon, and in doing that, they will hurt the sector. They will now bring very impossible to implement tariffs. I think that's a risk, and that should be something that if I was a federal government, we would have a conversation and say, okay, let's bring everybody together to think around how to make this, not become another pandemic, another political risk, and another disincentive for investment in the sector. So Enugu is right, federal government is right to say, if you do this, then take over the subsidy. Well, yes, states should be fiscally responsible and manage their sector well.
I mean, on paper, you say they're right, Dr. Amadi, but we seem to have a conundrum now, because the Gencos and Discos are claiming that these cuts jeopardize their financial viability. What does that say about the structure of our power market? Is it built to serve citizens or protect monopolies? How do we get out of this fix?
Okay, so that's a good problem. We've always had it. When I was NEC chairman, and in 2015 or 2014-15, I was accused of using tariff to help PDP. I mean, some of these people who came to power, which was wrong. You see what I did then? When we did a tariff and it was too high, they're going to call rate shock. You can't do a tariff that you increase by 200, 300. In fact, in developed countries, a tariff of 50% increase is a rate shock. It's too high for somebody to absorb it. So what's an inquiry? I would say, you know what? There's what you call collection loss, which is money that these schools could not recover. And I said, it doesn't make sense for you to throw at us your own inefficiency. We need you to zero it out, then you come and prove. When you prove, we'll give you. And the people carry propaganda, oh, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's what's going on here. This tariff structure we are applying in Nigeria is not efficient for the customers. So many of the discos have smuggled in inefficiencies into their system. Some of them are posting costs that are not real if you conduct forensic review, which is what regulators should do. So you have a situation where the methodology may be more political or presumptive. We assume. We don't have clear data. You don't even know how much, for example, the disco says we are going to buy 2,000 transformers. And probably in the last year, they said so, and they only bought 550. If you don't have a good data analysis and capacity to find out, that means that they are having a windfall. They are making more money than they ought to make. Now, this is a regulated business. The first principle is that nobody should make more money than they ought to. So that's why it's called allowable revenue. Revenue is allowed because the revenue actually is a real cost plus your return on investment, your depreciation, and all those calculations. So the first problem is that everybody's talking about this is going to affect us. How? So if I was a minister, I would invite a meeting, open book. Okay, show us this methodology. Now, show us why this methodology does not, going to underserve you. This idea of cost-effective tariff is a motive language. So discos use it as a sword and a shield. They protect themselves. They sometimes use it to not allow the regulator to find out what they're doing. So I want somebody to tell me why Enugu is wrong. I mean, I've heard their commissioner, they have called me and said this is what they did, and even what they did is true. If they asked the disco to submit their real cost, and they submitted those real costs, and discovered that those costs are more than what they quoted, or less than what they quoted, and they use those real costs, proven costs, to give them a tariff that they require, then no harm. But if Enugu assume that there's a subsidy the federal government will pay, and therefore reduce their tariff to just make a political justification, that's wrong. So I think that this is a story around the need to have a much more transparent, much more reviewable methodology for pricing, so that people can sit back and look at that methodology and take a back of envelope calculation and see that, well, it makes sense. This allows for everything that it needs to allow. It allows for all the costs are there. Interest rates changes are indexed. Inflation is indexed. The return on investment is properly there. Everything is there. Cost of borrowing is there. If you provide for all these things, and the disco play their part, because the two parts here is, one, discos are going to be efficient and not corrupt. If the discos are doing back of envelope or under the table transactions, if they buy one transformer, they say they paid 50 million instead of 20 million, then they are breaking their own deal. The deal is you have to be efficient. You have to only make those costs that are necessary. You can, for example, put your CEO on a 3-duplex and pay, for example, 3 million a year. The regulator would disallow it. That's not the proper, that's not, or you buy helicopters and private jets for management, the regulator will strike it out. That's not what consumers pay. So the science of it is that the regulator has to be sure that the costs you want to transfer to customers are the real cost and prudent cost for serving them, not bloated costs, not padded costs. And so this debate will require a regulator who is firm, who is market friendly, who will allow all the allowables but disallow the disallowables. And that's what we're not having that level of transparency and openness. And I think that's a way to reassure the market. What they are doing now will cause call it a wrong. Investors all over the world will be saying, maybe their tariffs are politically fixed and it's not good for the market. I saw one of the newspapers report discos kick against. I mean, that's not good for the market. So I think somehow there's need to restore stability and integrity in the discussion, so that if there's real problem that Enugu Disco need to amend and other states need to do, then we have that sorted out, rather than create a sense in which the discos will go to town chatting about how they're not able to get cost-effective tariff and how political populism is conditioning or influencing tariff making, in which case investors all over the world will be wondering,
all right, Dr. Amadi,
is still a market to go to? Yeah.
All right, Dr. Amadi, let's look at the subsidy. We also are aware of the electricity subsidy. It's been a very serious conversation this past week. We're told it jumped about 220%. Almost 2 trillion naira, as it were.
So why am I paying?
Yeah,
why am I still paying so much?
The government is trying its best to subsidize electricity, and then you have conversations around, oh, the pricing should drop, it should increase, and so on. Where do we go with all of this? Doesn't it look like there seems to be some a form of disjoint conversations within the same sector, and it's like everyone is trying to move either way, while not everyone sits down and find out what the solution would look like. But then again, let's talk about the subsidy. 2 trillion, and we're looking at the percentage as well.
Well, you're right. I mean, look, the federal government, from a fiscal policy perspective, feels that the subsidy is overburdened. And again, lack of clarity. The regulator ought to come out clear. What are these subsidies? In the electricity market, I want to call cross-subsidy, which means one customer class, for example, the commercial class is paying more than residential. Elsewhere in the world, residential pay more than commercial. Why? Because government policy is to reduce cost of business and make their business competitive. So there's a cross-subsidy inherent, which means one class is subsidizing the other class. That's one. Two, the subsidy that arises because government does not want tariffs to go high. So government takes off a chunk of the cost is another subsidy. There's a third thing they call subsidy in Nigeria, which is that government wakes up one morning and devalues the currency and therefore makes their cost higher. And that difference constitutes a extra dip or revenue of operators, which therefore is now said as a subsidy. It's subsidy caused by fiscal policy. It doesn't mean that people are served better, new investment. No, the same investment, the financial cost of that investment has doubled or tripled because of government, fiscal policy or monetary policy. So that's also what they call subsidy. Then there's also what they call subsidy, which is under recovery, that a disco is supposed to recover 100 million from its customer. Due to corruption, connivance, foolishness, or a lack of capability, it recovers only 70. They say, 30 million cannot be recovered, therefore cannot be paid. It goes back to debt, which they now call subsidy. So I think there's something we need to clarify what is subsidy. Is when government or any other person is paying a part of what a customer ought to validly pay, then there's a classical subsidy. But where your system is inefficient and you can't recover what the regulator has already allowed you to recover, not because the regulator stopped you or government stopped you, but because you have corrupt officials, that's a loss, not a subsidy. So, okay, having clarified that, the subsidy element, we need to take it seriously, because if government is fiscally stressed and this government is not interested in investing in socio-economic well-being, then there's a talk down around subsidy. But subsidy exists in all markets. Look at the European market. The EU spent billions of dollars subsidizing energy because of the crisis in Ukraine and Russia. So subsidy in Nigeria is made to look like a very terrible thing. But let's not get into that political economy. The key point here is, if you're not going to subsidize any element of these services because of fiscal constraint or any reason or ideology, then you should allow the price to reflect the actual cost. Because it's dangerous to create a notion of subsidy and not provide that subsidy, and therefore expose the operators to loss, and therefore expose the sector to constraint investment, and then the vicious circle of low supply, low payment, low confidence. So my view would be this: there should be clarity with the federal government and states. And again, if states take over their network as they are doing now, then it doesn't make sense relying that federal government will subsidize. Except there's a deal, an MOU, that federal government commits to some element of subsidy, because this is still a national economy. We have one economy. We have under the constitutional framework, we have multiple 26 and 1 FCT states, if you like, but there's one economy, and therefore the federal government, in my view, should maintain eminent domain to structure and launch and push the sector to work, because we don't want to move from a comatose or dilapidated or epileptic national electricity grid to a 36+1 dark patches across the country. And my fear is that if you don't get people who know in the room to help strengthen things, we might end up not just having one national grid that is failing, that is out most time, but we're going to have 37 grids that are not working, and that will be worse. So I agree that we need to have this conversation. We need to be clear about subsidy. Subsidy is dangerous if it's not well managed. So if you're not going to fund your subsidy schemes and fund them on time and fund them to the tune that you commit to, then it's better off to allow the price to go up. You can't do half and half. You can't say we have subsidy, but the subsidy is not forthcoming. So if there's going to be subsidy, federal government has to be clear. States also may have to put in some subsidy themselves if they can afford it. But looking at the structure of the states, many of the states, and that's my view,
all right,
that the rush to take states out is wrong. In few states, Lagos perhaps, Lagos obviously, Enugu has shown technical capacity and political will. Some states, their governors cannot even have the procedure, they can't even have the discipline to structure anything. So why should they bail out on the national grid only to throw their people into confusion? It's going to be tough weeks and months.
Okay, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and that will be my final question about transparency. You talked about the role that the regulatory commissions have to play and that they have to ensure that there's some measure of transparency. What would that structure look like if we're to guarantee the transparency within these regulatory commissions, and who should be held, to uphold these transparency that you speak about?
Again, first, I think the regulatory commission, different style, have been shy of media engagement. When I was there, if I was the chairman, what would I have done first is that you're going to go through the country. Let the people know what this new transition means. I think there'll be no public education about what the transition means for everyone. Means for disco. People are hearing manpower. Which manpower? We used to know about Enugu disco. Not many people have heard about this transition and what it means. So there need to be a broad communication. Secondly, the NEC as well has to come out with clarity around what I call common services. Think about transmission. There's going to be common services. Think about the power plants are not state specific. They are power plants sending power to the grid. So they will continue to send power to the same form. How do you ensure that main power, which is something of Enugu disco, that takes power that is going to Enugu and sell, will be able to send the money back through their immense company called EEDC that will not send back to the market operator. So those transitional arrangements have to be clearly spelled out. Secondly, the issues around debt, subsidy, how much. So each state that's opting out has clarity as to what they share from the federal government in terms of losses, what they share from the federal government in terms of benefits, and how each of this process will happen. What happened really is that the euphoria, typical, it was politicized. Oh, we have got this game changer called Electricity Act, which every state. The minister and his team, they didn't quite sit down, and by now we should have a real roadmap, something you can open or click on the website that tells you, frequently asked question, what happens to X if X happens? Answer. What happens to, so operators, investors, the consumers, stakeholders, everybody will now be able to go and say, this is the way things have changed and will change. And this is how things will remain the same in spite of that change. And that's really what it is about leadership. So I think there was a massive failure of leadership in this period. And what the regulators can now do, I think first NEC has to clarify where they stand in all this, what is still NEC doing if this happens. How will NEC react, or whether NEC is out? What does it mean that say that a state has its own regulator? What's the intercourse between NEC, the handshake between NEC and that regulator? It should be very clear. The ministry has to come out clear and establish various policy implications of this in terms of fiscal, how will government continue to invest in the electricity sector, how will government manage transmission, if transmission is going to also support various states. This kind of clarity, policy, regulatory, and transactional even the TTCN, nobody knows how would TCN operate. I was invited to a conference and I was telling them that this is how they should do, and they were all shocked. Oh, this makes sense, this makes sense. So that tells you that nobody has sat back to reflect and dimension the various layers of what this means. And this is typical of Nigeria. We hate desktop work. People like either the contract part or to go around on television, but someone has to sit back and work on the desktop and produce all these documentations and processes, and then be able to go around on the road show and say, it's just like in the moment in 2005 when we started this reform. It needs massive communication. It needs road shows. It needs a sense of engagement with stakeholders, with operators, with investors, with the public, using the media. So I think that's really what needs to happen now, because down the line, we're going to see more confusion if we don't start, showing confidence, clarity. Because you see, once there's clarity and people know that these issues are sorted out and this is what will happen, then you have less room for the kind of uproar we had a few days ago or yesterday about discourse threatening all kinds of things, and JCOs worried and states responding. That's evidence of lack of effective communication from the regulator, the policymaker, the ministry, and the stakeholders and operators in the market.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Amadi, for helping us get the sense of what the situation truly is from the electricity Nigerian sector, you could say, from a NEC and as well from the GENCOs and the DISCOs as well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
All right. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the stories making the headlines on Breakfast Headlines in a moment. Stay with us.
Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aporoa. The National Assembly has paid glowing tributes to former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on July the 13th at the age of 82. In a rare display of unity, lawmakers paused legislative business to honor his legacy. The Senate commended the federal government's decision to name the University of Maiduguri after him and propose a national monument in his honor. House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas praised Buhari for respecting the legislature and strengthening democratic institutions, highlighting landmark legislation passed during his tenure.
Excellency, Deputy Speaker,
I'm chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, and Governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodimma, has disclosed that the APC Governors Forum held a strategic meeting with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the State House Presidential Villa in Abuja. Speaking to State House correspondents shortly after the meeting, Governor Uzodimma described it as a convenient discussion with the president aimed at strengthening the party and enhancing its capacity to deliver good governance to Nigerians. The NEC meeting is expected to deliberate on key issues affecting the party and create a path forward towards its growth.
We came as a group formally to condole him on the passing of the former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, and also to discuss on the upcoming National Executive Committee meeting of our party tomorrow, and to get also share some ideas with Mr. President on how best to strengthen our party at the grassroots, at the local government, at the state level, up to the national level. So it's just a convivial discussion with Mr. President towards strengthening our party and to be able to help serve Nigerians better.
All right. Would there be any contest tomorrow, or there be consensus as regards, selection of a new party chairman?
It is National Executive Committee meeting. We cannot say what the outcome will be. When you come there tomorrow, you will see.
The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, is seeking legislative backing to issue regulations without external approval. Director General Charles Anasike made the request during a public hearing on a bill to amend the NIMET Act. Anasike cited delays and administrative bottlenecks as reasons for the amendment. The House of Representatives Committee Chairman Tajuddin Abisodun noted the bill aims to enhance limits effectiveness, emphasizing the agency's critical role in ensuring safety in the aviation sector. Nigeria's in Diaspora Commission Chair Abike Dabiri Erewa has strongly condemned the brutal killing of two Nigerian traders, Austin and Ayo, in Durban, South Africa. The victims were allegedly shot at close range by masked gunmen. Dabiri Erewa described the incident as senseless, barbaric and unacceptable. She called on South African authorities to conduct a thorough investigation and bring the perpetrators to justice. In a statement by NIDCOM's spokesperson Abdurrahman Balogun, he noted that the Nigerian High Commission is already probing the matter. And thousands of Gambians gathered in the capital Banjul and Kanifing to protest government corruption, demanding justice over recent scandals, including alleged mismanagement of public funds. The protest was officially permitted and emphasized peaceful demonstration focused on exposing cases such as the disappearance of large sums from the Gambia Football Federation, highlighting broader systemic issues fueling public distrust. This event marks a significant moment in ongoing civic activism amidst calls for transparency and accountability in government institutions.
Thanks for staying with us on Breakfast Central. Last lap, yes, the final hour. Don't forget, you can be part of it by simply just calling the number you find on the screen as we take a look at some of the major stories on the front pages. We're going to start off right away, but first, we do have our guest who's here with us, the head strategy and public affairs. Talking about for Metrics, I beg your pardon, and public affairs analyst who's here with us, Mr. Wade Ahime is here. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you.
All righty.
Great to be here.
Let's go straight into it. Let's start off with Daily Independent. That'll be our very first paper this morning. First paper on Daily Independent, it says right there at the top, MPC experts back hold decision as inflation FX risks loom large. Experts back hold decision as inflation Forex risks loom large. Supreme Court has settled our leadership question according to LP. That's a Labour Party. Remember, Dati, entitled to his opinion, can associate freely. That's exactly the latest statements coming from Labour Party. Let's see another one. Subversion of people's will could lead to crisis. ADC says no end in sight to Nigerians suffering under APC. Another one, someone who launches, produce for Lagos, 500 billion. Yeah, we saw that yesterday as well. But let's focus on one of the stories very quickly so we can move on. Coalition won't work. Members are nomadic politicians, PDP says.
Wow.
What's your take on this one, Awade?
Wow. It won't work. Is it because the members are nomadic politicians?
It says because members are nomadic politicians. For the benefit of our viewers and those who are watching, let me just quickly define nomadic. Nomadic simply is a characteristic of a tribe or headers roaming about from place to place. Nomadic are people who are aimless, frequently,
wow,
or without a fixed pattern of movement. In other words, they're just jumping from here, there, and so on.
So in this context, from one political party to another.
And it kind of like, fits in because you have a coalition of people who have jumped from one place to the other. And then you also had the FCT minister adding his voice to that, saying that Atiku Abubakar, please permit me to also read that before Wadi reacts to this. I just want to share, I want us to have a clear context of what it's about and what they're saying. So nomadic in terms of Atiku Abubakar also, Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, also had this to say concerning the coalition. Many were waiting for him to speak, and did he speak? Yes, he did. He had this to say. He said Atiku Abubakar has been moving from one party to the other. stating that he wants to rescue Nigerians. Now, who does he want to rescue? His stomach? He also talked about that. Anyway, over to you.
Well, as I would agree with Nyesom Wike on Vice President Atiku. He's probably the most nomadic politician that we have in Nigeria, or we've had in Nigeria during this dispensation. He's moved from PDP to AC, back to PDP, now to ADC. But the fact remains that in Nigeria, most politicians are nomadic. And we've seen that in the MPL league that we started to cover.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is not nomadic. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is not nomadic.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mention, I said
no,
most, I said most politicians. And I will give you an example. Some of the members of this coalition, PDP, APC, ADC.
Fantastic.
So I don't need to mention names. Do you understand?
Yeah, but
and that's why I said, so if, and when you look at it also, even the ruling party, AD to AC to APC, so it's just the change in name. There's no change in nomenclature of the things that they plan to do. Like I was listening to something earlier today from one of the analysts on one of the other radio stations, is that there is no ideology for any of these parties, whether it's PDP. It started with PDP and AD. The ideology was just who was going to get into the president. We zone it to the South-South. Oh, he has to be a Yoruba man in 1999. Was that the ideology for you to build Nigeria? In my own opinion, I don't think so. Like I continue to say, you don't have to, it's not from the zone or the region that you come from. It's what you have and you believe as a country called Nigeria, not as a member of South, whether it's South or North or East or 6 geopolitical reasons. It's how do you combine and harness the strengths and the weaknesses of those geopolitical regions into being Nigerian. And if that's what the new nomadic, according to the report, is saying about these politicians, yes, they have, whoever made that statement, it seems to be right in the fact that many of them have jumped from different parties, and nobody seems to be able to tell me that it's an ideology that is moving you from one point to the other. The only thing I hear APC in 2014 was, to remove Jonathan. And it's the same thing I'm hearing from the ADC today. Nobody's telling me what your manifesto is going to be. How are you going to, if you are unable to win the elections in 2027, how you will be that formidable opposition? And to give APC, their kudos in 2013, 2014, when they came out to be, they were a formidable opposition. Are you with me? They criticized the things that they felt were wrong about the Jonathan administration and so on. And so let's always look at all those things. And this history is not too long. I know our history in Nigeria is always short term, but this is not too long ago. This is 10 years, so it's still fresh in people's minds.
Back to that news item you're reacting to. The crux of the matter is they would not win. The PDP saying that the coalition would not win because they're nomadic politicians. How true is that? I mean, it took a coalition of nomadic politicians to oust the PDP in 2015.
Yeah, so the PDP is saying that, and like we've continually said, we've also seen some members of the PDP who says they will not leave the PDP, but they are going to back whatever the coalition has to do in terms of once they bring out their clear structure and agenda for 2027. So how do you know they are not going to win? In 2014, when the APC started, we didn't expect that the APC was going to win because the power of incumbency in Nigeria had retained status quo. So it's still 2 years away from an election. And like I say, and like we continually said about the Nigerian political league, is this. 2 years is a long time. Why? Because over the next 2 years, you don't know who is going to cross from one point to the other, what the signing fees are going to be. So the negotiations are continually going on left, right, and center. Rumors in the papers that the governor Ekiti State.
Okay,
wants
all
to
right.
join APC, and so on and so forth.
Let's take this call. Let's take this call. We do have Francis calling. Good morning, Francis.
Good morning.
Please go ahead and make.
Go ahead, but please speak up so we can hear you.
Yeah, it's actually laughable when you read something from the PDP people saying that the Nigerian politicians people in APC are nomadic. It's very funny because from the first instance, if you check through the landscape of politicians that we have in Nigeria, you find out that most of them are just nomadic. Very few actually exempt themselves from that kind of way of life. And you see, the driving force of our political people are not just about the masses. It's more about the change. It's more about the influence that they want to influence the society for a better change. They are always after their own belly. They are after what they want to eat. Parties are not structured to have ideology to save the masses. Parties are not structured to have ideology to help the country to grow. Parties are structured because you want to remove someone from power. You want to do this. This person is not doing this. This people is not doing this. Money is not coming to our own side. If we continue with that ideology, even the whole country is nomadic. Because we don't have plan. We don't have concrete plan that we are working towards. The ADC that is just from now, if you have them the ideology, you find out that there's nothing under it. They just come together to unseat the president. That's the way we are living in this country. And for me, that's why I've accepted myself from any political something. Because you see people coming together just for what? Just for the political party, giving name today, APC today, ACN tomorrow. Funny enough, next tomorrow you can see another name being changed. Without the change of character, without focus. And many people are still following these people all around. Hey, this is a political party. We have to have a national consciousness towards development of this nation. It's not about party. It's not about being nomadic. As everybody in Nigeria in politics are nomadic. Everywhere they left it, that's what we go to. May God help our country.
Man, thank you very much.
Francis, for calling. All right, let's have that paper on the screen again. Let's get to see some other stories right there. Daily Independent. Federal government elevates flooding challenges in Nigeria as a national security. So flooding challenges has been placed as national security. Let's look at another story quickly. This one says, IDPs in Benue lacking relief materials. EU raises the alarm. We did have the minister join us yesterday, and he said these things were handled. I wonder why. But anyway, let's wrap things up on the Daily Independent before Benga goes to the next one. Supreme Court has settled our leadership question, LP, Labour Party, and IDP. Which one?
Is there any recent judgment, or
yes,
they settled it with the last one that people are interpreting however they want to?
It's a lot. It's a lot to take. But maybe I could go to the next.
Yes, let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper front page says 43% spike in tax revenue spurs hope for fiscal recovery and deficit cuts. I'm sure Wade will be very interested in looking at that one. There's also police burst arms syndicate linked to Benue killings. And Vindicated says Onosoya as court strikes out loan controversy case. Tinubu APC leaders converge in Villa as NEC tackles crucial issues. Let's talk about the 43% spike in tax revenue for the average Nigerian. How does that? What does it translate to? That's a lot.
It should be a lot. And I always say this, is that when I see the headlines, let's go look at the details. I haven't seen these details, but that spike, what has brought about it? Is it more efficiency in collection? If that is what it is, then yes, this is good news. However, if it is because of the fact that the way the revenue from taxes are collected, part of it are in Naira locally, some of them are based on foreign currency transactions. If this is the same, what's it called? If it's the same ratios that you have over time, then it means that there's really nothing that has changed. The only thing that has changed is that if you used to collect $100 before and you're still collecting $100, it's no longer 460. It's now 1,600. So these are things, and like I said, when we use data, let's always be careful. Always be careful about how we look at data.
There's another headline here. The Pan-Igbo Cultural Group, Ohanese Ndigbo, is saying, allow Tinubu, they're saying to Peter Obi, allow Tinubu to complete second term. Ohanese tells Peter Obi. What do you make of this? And is there a danger of votes being split in the eastern region because of this pronouncement? And how much political capital does Ohanese Ndigbo have?
I don't know how much political capital they have, but there won't be any crime in splitting the votes if the Ohanese Ndigbo believes that the current administration has done well, both for Nigeria and the Southeast. Then they have the right to put their support behind the, the current administration and the president. So that way is really their word against those of the electorate who decide who they are going to vote for. So at that point in time, when 2027 elections come and you go campaign, tell us what you've done, tell us what you promised to do if you are running to unseat the incumbent, and then we'll decide how our votes will go. But yeah, that's the Ohanese Ndigbo making their own statement and telling Nigerians or telling those in the Southeast that they think they would back Tinubu for a second time.
Okay. Let's take a look at the paper. Benga, still on that one, there's a story I think we should look at on The Guardian as well. The Guardian, look at this one. Port inefficiencies, corruption, spike inflation logistics cost by 40%. I know this is a very interesting topic for you, Wade.
No, it's not news. It's not news.
It's what?
These things have been there forever. I remember last week when we were talking about... last week we spoke about the fact that, I think it was at the end of the show when people were saying, Peter Obi was a member of the port decongestion. That was in 1990, what? And we're still coming back to tell us 25 years later that the inefficiency is costing 40%. And that's the reality. If you go to the port, why can't we just harness a simple system that ensures that we can do all our activities or all our transactions online? We continue to talk about e-governance. We'll be talking about every government pledges so much money to buy new computers for e-governance, and every parastatal and agency does the same. But we just are not seeing it. We just are not seeing it. So this is not news to me. 40% spike, oh yes. That for this benefit.
But just last month, they said the price had dropped. Just last month, I remember reading that article that the price had dropped. So now we're seeing...
Price of what? Of clearing your goods?
Of clearing your goods and so on. So doesn't this include...
Prices were going up and down, yo-yo, at a point in time when the exchange rate was not right. Because there was a particular week where they changed the exchange rate for payments and all 3 times in a week. Now it's a bit stable. So I don't know whether that's what makes prices, that has made prices go down. That's one. But secondly, is the Port Authority telling us that there is a bit more efficiency, that if you say you'll be able to clear and you have all your documentations and payments done, even before the goods come in, you'll be able to clear it in 72 hours. I haven't seen that. Even the congestion in terms of the number of trucks that block the road inside going into the port is a menace. Has all that been done? I don't think so, and I don't believe it has been done, except the customs comes out and tells us that all these things have been fixed.
Okay, let's take this call. Ibrahim is calling from Abuja. Good morning, Ibrahim. Thank you for calling us.
Good morning, News Central. I just want to comment on the statement that Saraki made yesterday that those in coalition in ADC are nomadic politicians. You see, the party, the Nigerian government, this APC of Nigerian, have made all Nigerians nomadic. You see, Japa is nomadic. People are Japaing even to Niger, to Cameroon, to these countries that were cobblers, were cleaners in Nigeria, because they have made the economy a terrible economy that even a beggar cannot survive in Nigeria. Beggars don't get those who even give them money. Saraki and those guys who were there in that PDP meeting were the ones who destroyed PDP themselves. Wike is the worst nomadic. In fact, he pushes animals into grazing in people's farm because APC is not his farm. He's feeding fat in APC and he's using the money to destroy PDP, and they don't have the courage to even sack him from the party. So they are the worst. PDP and APC are the worst nomadic. While APC have made the poor and Nigerians nomadic, the PDP are grazing in other people's farm. That is APC's government, and they are destroying their own party. Why would those who want to salvage Nigeria leave APC and PDP to find a place where they can collude and save Nigerians? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Any thoughts before we move on to our next paper?
Well, human beings in general are nomadic, and what pushes human beings to be nomadic is economic and social issues around you. So if you get a new job, of course you move. If the economy doesn't pay you in some place, you look for something better. But people remain where they are, where they see one, stability, where there are true value systems, which is what the two callers have spoken about. There are no value systems within our parties, whether it's the APC or the AD or the APN or is the PDP and so on. And then the third one is when you have an ideology, people stick to that ideology. So I would stay with you when I believe in your ideologies and your theories, and I will work with you on them towards making, and I continue to say, Nigeria a better place, and that's it. But yeah, everybody, the political class in Nigeria is really, really nomadic. You mentioned the two of the former presidents never leaving their parties. But I remember President Obasanjo tearing his PDP card over the incumbent president then, and saying that, oh, he had not done properly. So what does that say to me? He might not have left.
Retiring from partisan politics.
Exactly. So if you retire from the party, you don't discard the ideologies that you have by tearing your party card. That's a big statement from a former president of this country. Okay,
this one we're talking about party ideologies. Let's see if the new political party, the coalition, would have a unification of ideologies. Everyone.
For now, the ideology is how do we kick out President Tinubu.
When we interviewed the Lagos chapter chairman of the ADC, he said that's not their ideology. That their ideology is people focused, the people first, from the ward level to the top, and that their main goal is to provide a viable opposition.
So, obviously, they are not amplifying that properly.
Tomato.
In my own opinion.
I think they are almost the same thing anyway. But I want us to go to take a story on The Guardian before I take the next paper. 2027, Amechi rally supporters against election rigging in Rivers. We played a video earlier where former Governor Rotimi Amechi, also the former Minister of Transportation, was addressing the people of Rivers State. So I want to quote something for you that he said, and then we can react to that. He said, every Rivers man who thinks good of the state and country should move to register with the new party and ensure that we remove the current government and stop the hunger that everybody is suffering from. If you are not tired of President Tinubu, I'm tired of President Tinubu. If you're not hungry, I'm hungry. If the rich men are spending 4 million naira a month on electricity, only God knows how you are surviving. And the president says he doesn't care. The president says he's not here to make you happy, but ADC is here to make you happy. He said, now this is a very important segment, he says, Rivers State is notorious for writing election results. When they write results, they claim they have won. I will not work with you if you work with those result snatchers to announce results. God will bless all of us, the former Rivers governor told the supporters who stormed the Port Harcourt International Airport on Magua in large numbers. Your reaction to this? Now, this is a very strong statement he's made there. Very, very strong statement, basically trying to rally the people of Rivers State to support the ADC. With all the drama that's happened in Rivers State, particularly looking at how Governor Sim Fubara had been suspended, how the sole administrator had been put to stand and operate in his stead, the criticism leveled against the sole administrator, the protests and counter-protests, and the seeming unrest that Rivers State has had to experience in the past couple months, not necessarily because of violence, but more because of politics and governance taking a backseat. Do you think Rivers State people are ready for a change in this regard?
The only thing that's static in life is change. But let's also remember that Governor Rotimi Amechi was governor for 8 years of Rivers State. And I'm trying to think through those 8 years. What major electoral reforms did he pass within the state? Because it's easy to come out and criticize. Are you with me? Under the same, what's it called? Under the same, this same person under the national administration, you get? Passed an electoral reform act, and things didn't work. And nobody amongst them came out to validate, what happened or what couldn't have happened. You can't be member of governance, and then is when the thing kicks back against you that you remember that, we're hungry, people are this. Rivers State has, from time immemorial, under elections, has been one of the most electoral violent states in this country for as long as I can remember. So what have you done, or what did you do? It's easy to talk to people and rally people. What are you even trying to do now? Are you speaking to members of the National Assembly that are from Rivers State on how electoral reforms should be done? What are these people? Yeah, they might not be members of your party, but if you want to speak for the people and speak with the people, then you should also be speaking to these people, because you all know each other one way or the other. So for me, yes, they are bold statements, but action speaks louder than words. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Olive,
all right, let's move to another paper.
Nigerian Tribune.
On the Nigerian Tribune front page, APC moves NEC meeting to presidential villa. Whoever emerges as our chairman will promote party interests, Uzodinma says. PDP leaders drum reconciliation, issue warnings ahead of NEC meeting. We can resolve our differences, Saraki says. Ghana seeks support for southern candidate. Ogun, Rivers, top death row inmates list. 3,833 inmates on death row. Organ transplantation, surgeons revive dead heart for infant transplant. EU unveils 1.5 million euro support for victims of Benue crisis. Oh, wow. That's amazing. 4 more PDP senators defect to APC as Senate majority grows to 70. I am vindicated, says Onosonya, as court strikes out loan deal. Recall that this has been a matter that's been within the purview of the court, and the former MD CEO of First Bank, Dr. Olabisi Onosonya, has said that now he's vindicated after the Federal High Court in Lagos has struck out the controversial loan-related case involving his name. Then we see CSOs withdraw petition against NMDPRA boss and tender apology. Osun Assembly, members back Adeleke, residents vow to seek with him. So, first of all, Adeleke throwing his support behind President Buhari. Sorry, I beg your pardon, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We'll see what has happened again. Every spirit of... Anyway. Governor Adeleke throwing his support behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had come with a lot of reactions. There are those who felt you're still in the PDP and now you're throwing your support behind the APC. This is obviously giving political alliances because you're trying to secure
anti-party
yourself.
activities.
And it's anti-party. However, I know the anti-party thing seems to be a norm now, with people in their political parties declaring allegiance and serving in other political parties. Nyesom Wike seemed to be the flag bearer of this move. And now we're seeing people still in their political parties showing their support for the ADC, the coalition. So let's get your thoughts first about Adeleke throwing his support behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then his residents vowing to stick with him.
Okay, so we'll continue with the analogy where we stopped from last time. Remember, Benga, thank you for bringing up the last time. The loan deals are beginning to work out now.
All right. And I'll have you, speak to that. But before you speak on that, let's hear Eddie talking about. Good morning, Eddie, calling from River State. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen in the studio. I want to just chip in on the statement presented by the former River State Governor, Richie, and the Minister of
Transportation.
If you look at that statement critically, you will know that the statement that is an irony, and he himself has been in government since 1999. He has always seen that people are hungry. He has been a part of government in the corner of government. He always seen that government always trick election. It's now that we know that Nigeria are hungry. It's now that he's making statement that Nigeria are doing a lot of wrong things. He has been a speaker. He has also been a minister. And under the administration of Buhari, which he was a minister of transportation, we know everything that transpired during that period where people were buying money under the administration of President Buhari. He was a minister. So at what point did we now know that Nigeria are hungry? We are buying a pack of rice, 80,000 naira. So at what point now we now know that Nigerians are hungry? So Nigeria are not fools. Because we want to be relevant, we want to become president, we start bringing facts that will convince the masses. We are not fools. We are grassroots. We know who is right and who is doing things well. So let him just wait until 2027. If the ticket is given to him, no problem. Then go to the field. So that's my conviction about him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Eddie. So basically speaking about former governor.
Said at what time did he know that Nigerians are hungry?
Which is kind of what
I thought that he didn't come here. Was it 2 years ago or from 1999 when he was speaker for 8 years, governor for 8 years? So in 16 years, like I said, I didn't see any electoral reform bills that were passed even for the states. Because the irony of it is in 1999, local government elections were held. Local government elections, I think according to the situation, are supposed to be held every 3 years. But since that 1999 election, all the state governors have systematically killed local government elections. Systematically. So how do we even speak to our constituents when some people don't even know who the local government chairman is? Or who the councillors of the wards are. Until, like Lagos now, when they had the elections, I just see posters. And it seems to be only one party that is contesting for the elections, quote and unquote.
Yeah,
anyway, and that's it. Let's come back to what we're talking about in terms of what's it called. The loan deals are getting better. They're becoming more structured. We've seen the early loan deals. Well, those ones are not loans. Those were outright purchase transfer. Wadeleke zone seems to, he's trying to hang on the balance.
But he is not going. It's just
that's what I'm saying. So it's a loan deal. Some of his what's it called have moved to the what's it called. Those ones have been purchased outright. But Adeleke has decided to sign a loan deal with the leaders of with the current defending champions of the MPL.
What happens at the PDP convention and they produce a formidable candidate? Can he change his mind? Can you go back to your parents' club?
Oh, yes, you are. It's a loan. If the other club decides that you're not performing well, they'll send you back now. That's how loans work. So what's the time limit for the loan? So it could be short-term loans. Every 3 months we look at it and then we renew it. And those are things that, and that's why the Nigerian political scene is really, really interesting to me. I continue to use the analogy of football because it resonates to a number of people. But that's what it is. So first they've agreed on a loan transaction. How long that loan will be? Will it run till 2027? But that's what they say now. That's the agreement. But the dotted lines could say reviewed every 3 months or every 6 months. And then even Adeleke himself can decide that in that 6 months he wants to renege on the loan deal if his current club can pay all these, entitlements to him. And it's the same thing with Wike. He's on a long term. Well, the first term of the loan is almost coming to an end, so probably going to renew it because his current club cannot pay all his fees and entitlements to him. And those are those are the intricacies of 2027. But like we said at the beginning, what is the ideology? If the ideology is just to unseat an incumbent president, we saw 2015, change that never, in my own opinion, change that never moved beyond, what's it called? And then next level that was more like one chance, in my own opinion. And we've seen how that change and next level has taken us into the real next level that we really are in. And I'll leave it at that.
Tough situation, tough decisions to also make. But let's get to see one last story. Let's see if we have one. Police bust arms syndicate linked to Benue killings.
Yes.
Is this another sensational story just to spike excitement and interest and accolades?
Well,
or should we expect what should be done? I mean, what's your take, though?
Are you excited about this?
Are you excited?
Well, so first and foremost, yes, it's good to hear this, but the next thing will be what kind of further investigations are they going to carry out to find out not just the syndicates with the guns, but those who are also behind the funders and the financiers of all these syndicates that you have, because there's no fire without smoke, or how do they put it? And that's what it should be for me. Yeah, good news, but I hope it's not just going to die with this headline that they've crushed the syndicate and that's the end. What further investigations are being carried out? I know that the president has said that they must get to the bottom of this, so I hope they will get to the bottom of it. And then secondly, based on all the information or they will gather through the investigation, that they will be able to now start to provide the right security architecture, not just for Benue, but across the country as a whole.
All right.
I mean, if you look at the details of that story, first of all, it says disturbed by recent act of violence in the local council of Cross River State. Senator Jaribe Agom has condemned the gruesome murder of a young man from Sa community in Benue State, calling for urgent action from security agencies to restore peace and justice. So when they were explaining what exactly had happened, they said the raid followed credible intelligence linking the location to bandits involved in the deadly Yewata killings. A fierce gun battle ensued, forcing the suspects to flee with injuries. In the aftermath, police recovered 2 GPMGs from the hideout. Further gains were made on July 8, 2025, when 25-year-old Abubakar Issa was arrested during a tactical stop-and-search operation along the Lafia-Makurdi Expressway in Benue State. He was caught with 3 AK-47 rifles and 1,002 rounds of 7.62 millimeters live ammunition. Investigations revealed the weapons were supplied by a well-known arms dealer, Jacob Adigu, based in Abinsi, Guma local government area. Wow.
Has he been arrested now?
Yeah, it would seem that he has. You know, they said the recovered items were reportedly headed by one Dan Hassan. Okay, so there's even like
yeah, so that's what we're talking about. So there's a syndicate, so you must continue to use the arrest to gather the information to investigate further, because it could go beyond these people.
And you know, it could go beyond them and then be linked to other states, like we're seeing here.
Exactly.
The other states that have been. Yeah. Anyway, so kudos to the police when they do the good one.
Yeah,
we'll applaud them.
You must give them that credit. And like I always say, give credit to when the good things are done, give that credit. But let them, based on that, also go further, and so that we can continually give them the credits that they deserve.
And as they are unlocking, you know, unearthing who these armed syndicates are, we hope that they can use that same ginger to flush the ones who are giving the police a bad name and a bad reputation within the Nigerian police. Flush them out, because you can't be doing a good job and there's some people on the inside who are making your job look bad, such that when the Nigerian police is being mentioned, you then start to worry about the reputation that they have following it.
Bad eggs in the
bad
force.
eggs in
Well,
the
and you have to break it like an omelette.
I think Nigerians should also try as much as possible to speak about those kind of things when they see them, because we always turn a blind eye to a number of things and just say, oh, the police is bad. But really, the police will say, the police is your friend. And if you see the bad eggs, please let them know.
And as we wrap up this police conversation, just to mention that we've extended an invitation to P1 Real Estate Company. We sent an email. We would like to invite you to Breakfast Central, because we want to have a conversation that reflects both sides of the divide. We're also going to be speaking with Scotty Guma, who has gone on social media to recount his experience, a rather harrowing experience of how he was handled by the Nigerian police, stripped of his fundamental human rights, and how P1 can also be made, you know, fingers can be pointed at P1 in all of this situation. But Wade, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me as usual. Have
See you
a
at
great
the next
rest of the week.
political transfer season.
Yes, it's going to heat up very soon.
It's heating up. We said this thing in June. May, June, we said that
it's super hot.
And thank you for bringing up that suggestion. Those loan structures are, you know, they are more complicated than outright purchase.
Absolutely.
This is where we wrap up today. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to our
guys.
virtual audience for being a part of the conversations as well. We'll see you tomorrow. I am Olive MOD.
And I'm Benga Borowa.
And I'm Joe Hansen.
And he's Wade Ahime. And you are you. And we'll see you tomorrow.
And